Okay, people, we're alive. Welcome back. This is the Great Ace Attorney 2 Resolve on the Nintendo Switch, and this is going to be part 8. We're on the 4th case. We have to converse with Van Zieks, and then I think we'll move on to the trial portion, if I'm not mistaken. Asogi, Inspector Gregson, your gun. 10 years ago, my older brother, who was the director of prosecutions at the time, was murdered. And the killer, as you know, was a visiting student from the Far East. Not a single day goes by when I don't curse the name Asogi. Kenshin Asogi was Kazuma-sama's father. So what cruel twist of fate is this now, 10 years later? The man's son is to crucify me in some kangaroo court? I still don't understand why Lord Strongheart apprenticed Kazuma to you. It's what he does. No doubt he knew of the young man's true identity from the outset. But what could he have been hoping to achieve? And let's not forget that it was only 8 days ago that Kazuma recovered his amnesia. Why would Lord Strongheart assign this trial to somebody like that? Asogi. That name is the very epitome of my bane. The bane that is you Nipponese. Right, your hatred of all us Japanese. The Nipponese bane. I'd only just been appointed as a prosecutor when it happened 10 years ago. My brother Clint, the director of prosecutions, was hunting down a mass murderer, the so-called professor. Assigned to the investigation as his partner was a certain visiting student dispatched from Scotland Yard. And that was Genshin Asogi? Exactly. I developed a deep respect for the man. He seemed noble-minded and chivalrous in the extreme to me. But none of us saw the true nature of the man. It does seem more and more like perhaps he was never guilty of anything in the first place, and that Asogi has this animosity towards the whole story. Because everyone thinks that his father did it, when actually he thinks maybe to himself that, no, that's impossible, my father would never have done such a thing. So I lost everything when it happened. My esteemed brother, the people I believed in, and any semblance of right prevailing over wrong. Oh, how awful. To avenge my brother, I prosecuted in Asogi's trial. It wouldn't ordinarily have been allowed, but I beleaguered the ascribed prosecutor until he consented. What do you mean by the ascribed prosecutor? The man in charge of the Professor case inquiry, Lord Mail Strongheart. Wait, what? Lord Strongheart? He was a highly accomplished prosecutor, but he agreed to relinquish the trial to me and act as my advisor instead. Since that time, he's the one person to whom I felt indebted. I'm sure he must have seen your zeal for the case and recognized your potential as a prosecutor. Anyway, time passed, but then earlier this year, who should arrive in London but you? And of all things, as a lawyer. I felt your animosity the first time I ever faced you in the courtroom. Your obvious deep loathing of us Japanese. I kept telling myself it was illogical, but for so many years that hatred had festered inside me, I could no longer control it. And I can understand why now I know the history. But in the same way that I've long felt the Nipponese to be the bane of my life, to Kazuma Asogi I am the bane of his. The Reaper who sent his father to the gallows. He's looking for revenge, and he intends to take it in court tomorrow. Gregson's transfer to the Paris Police Prefecture had finally been arranged for the coming month. But he'll never make it to France now. It's a tragedy. Oh yes, come to think of it, he did mention something about that, didn't he? I wonder, does it happen often? Being transferred internationally, I mean. It's the first time I've ever encountered it. Oh, the Paris police welcoming an English detective is almost inconceivable. I can't imagine what kind of magic Gregson must have worked to put that arrangement in place. It sounds like that mystery has even the Reaper perplexed. That mystery probably has something to do with why he was going to be transferred in the first place. That could be ramified. I'm afraid to say that we were very ignorant about Inspector Gregson's standing. We hear that he was considered something of a legend at Scotland Yard. Again, it was 10 years ago that he first made a name for himself, by uncovering a decisive piece of evidence that exposed the professor's identity. If it wasn't for Gregson's singular approach to the case, the discovery would never have been made. What sort of approach? After my brother's life was taken, the inspector pushed for a full autopsy. Oh my, 10 years ago? Why is that so surprising? Autopsy was considered a desecration of the body at the time and rarely performed. And my brother was of course a noble. That made the idea of it even more unthinkable. But something Gregson had dug up in his investigations made him determined it was necessary. His powerful conviction somehow influenced the House of Lords, and as a result, I could avenge my brother's death. So you must have had great confidence in the inspector's abilities then. And it's even more inconceivable that you would have taken his life. I don't have confidence in anyone. Oh! And I'm sure Gregson felt the same way. I have no doubt he thought of me as the ominous Reaper, just like the rest of London. What really went on between Lord Van Zieks and Gregson, I wonder? What was the true nature of their relationship? About the gun used to shoot the inspector that was found at the scene. Ah yes, that's not mine. Really? Because common opinion seems to be that it is. What do you expect me to say to that? Lord Strongheart informs us that you claim to have misplaced your firearm. As embarrassing as that is, I'm afraid it's true. When did you lose it then? That, I don't know. Oh? I was issued with a revolver when I first became a prosecutor 10 years ago. I must have stowed it somewhere, I suppose. Or left it somewhere, perhaps. You have something in common with Lord Van Zieks after all, Mr. Naruhodo. A talent for misplacing things. No, this has nothing to do with me. Don't drag me into it. Don't make the mistake of associating me with this Nipponese. Susato is a Nipponese too, you know. Oh dear, the rift is very wide, isn't it? So it's not decisive evidence, clearly, but it doesn't look good, that's for sure. Should I present stuff? Ah, yeah, maybe this one. Where did I get this again? Who gave me that again? Was it Lord Strongheart? Who was it? Or was it Asogi? I can't recall now. Lord Van Zieks, we came by this old photograph. Where did you get that? It was taken when I became a qualified prosecutor. It's almost unbelievable. I assumed it was long lost. Is the man on the left there? Yes, that's my brother, Clint. The details of Gregson's photograph have been updated in the court record. It had to be, really. Apparently, this picture was prominently displayed in Gregson's office. He had a deep respect for you, you know? Were you aware of that? Respect? That's nonsense. No, we've heard someone attest to it very clearly. Inspector Gina Lestrade, no less. Well, maybe once, yes. There was a time things were like that. We were brothers in arms, jovially discussing the future of justice and other such lofty subject matter. That was a nice glimpse of the past. I thank you. I feel as though I got a nice glimpse of the past then too. There was a glimmer of light in his eyes, a brief twinkle, an insight into the true nature of this man known to all as the stone-cold Reaper of the Bailey. Mr. Naruhodo. Oh, that's the first time he's ever used my actual name. I've lost all confidence in my country's justice system. I don't trust the police, the judiciary, or lawyers. But there's still one thing I'm willing to believe in. What's that? That which you see in the eyes of another across the courtroom. A simple determination to know the truth. Lord Van Zeeks. From the very first time we clashed in the Bailey almost a year ago now, I couldn't deny it, even though I dearly wished I could. Here is a loathsome Nipponese, who has absolute integrity as a lawyer. Wow. What's the world coming to? Who are you, and what did you do to the true Lord Van Zeeks? There are only two other men I've known with that same look in their eyes. My brother Clint, and Genshin Asogi. The man he idolized, and the man who betrayed his trust in the most hideous way. When you showed me that photograph just now, it reminded me. You mean, this photograph? Back then I was able to laugh. I was free of the shackles of mistrust that plague me now. I looked to the future with hope. Since then, I've protected myself against betrayal by refusing to trust anyone. But at times, the mire into which I've sunk makes it almost impossible to breathe. I'm so sorry. So, Mr. Naruhodo, I want to believe in that look in your eyes. I need to believe in it. In tomorrow's trial, will you advocate for me? Of course I will. It would be an honor. I'm so pleased, Mr. Naruhodo. Then my life is in your hands. For Lord Van Zeeks, that must have been an incredibly hard thing to ask, which is why I simply cannot let the man down. Tomorrow, in the Old Bailey, against my old friend Kazuma.
To be continued?
Yeah.
Ugh.
Second of November, 8:56 a.m. The Old Bailey, defendant's antechamber. There's that old familiar feeling again. The crushing pressure of this historic courthouse. Actually, no. It's a little different today. There is an even more menacing tension in the air. There is a menacing tension in the air here today, isn't there? I suppose. Yes, I think so. It can only be the result of the menacing appearance of the defendant. A little more courtesy, if you please. Oh my, I do apologize. However, you're certainly not mistaken that this trial is far from ordinary. What do you mean? I'm not privy to the details. However, I understand that no jury has been selected. A trial without a jury? Well, that's just like the trial of the professor 10 years ago. Professor. Closed court. Good morning, my dear fellows. Mr. Sholmes! Have you made note of my hair, Mr. Naruhodo? An outright victory for science, you must agree. To be perfectly honest, so much happened yesterday that, well, I completely forgot about your little hair problem. Huh, what to one man is a little hair problem is to another a day of drinking dubious potion after dubious potion. Hi, Flynn. Flinny, how's it going? A day off Twitch. It's to another day of drinking dubious after dubious potion, yeah. You have no idea how my stomach ails me this morning. Oh dear, how awful for you. I'm afraid you only have yourself to blame, Mr. Sholmes. And good morning to you, Mr. Reaper. I'm delighted to see you looking so full of vim. And I see London's celebrated great detective is as active as ever. Oh, you exaggerate, my dear fellow, compared to my paltry engagements with a few trivial cases. The Reaper's overbearing presence is a far greater deterrent to the black roots of crime in our capital. And whilst I may not agree with your methods, there is at least one point on which I would readily commend you. What an honor, and that would be... Your eye for a good lawyer, sir. Mr. Sholmes. After all, behind this lawyer there is a very great mind. My own! What are you trying to say? I wish only to say that you should be prepared for quite a trial, Mr. Reaper. Sorry to barge in. Gina. Gina! What's that on her arm? It's a morning band, I suppose. Father, shouldn't you be at the symposium? It's been postponed, so I have some free time. I decided to come along with the police inspector to see our country's up-and-coming student in action. I shall be very interested to see the fruits of your studies over the past year. Well, it's an honor to have you here. Let's hope there are some fruits to see. Odo. Oh, yes, Gina? What do you agree to this, eh? Why'd you take him on? This Reaper bloke. Everyone says it was him what killed the boss. I'm sorry, Gina, but I just don't believe that. Well, if it weren't him, who was it? I don't know that yet. I don't care who calls him what. The Reaper is just a name. He's just a person at the end of the day. And if it turns out it was him what killed the boss, then God help him. Fiery eyes indeed. Yes, the culprit deserves every ounce of your loathing. Eh? At least that may be some solace to the deceased. Sorry. Please, Odo. Get whoever did this. For the boss. Oh, Gina. I hate feeling this useless, but there's nothing I can do. So you've gotta find who done this and make the wretch pay. Counsel for the defense and the defendant. Court will be in session shortly. Make your way into the courtroom at once, please. Alright then, here we go. It's time, Mr. Naruhodo. Lord Van Zeeks. One who lost his treasured brother to a mass murderer. One who lost his treasured father in a foreign court of law. And one who lost a man who helped her escape destitution. All that misfortune, all that pain, on course to collide headlong in this trial. It's time to shine the light on all these dark events. And whatever truth is revealed, we're going to have to look it straight in the eye. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session. We are here to conduct the fair and just trial of the defendant, Barak Van Zeeks. Counsels for the defense and prosecution, are you ready to begin? The defense is ready, my lord. The prosecution is more than ready. Oh, Kazuma-sama. I've been wishing to see you in court again for so long, it feels. But I never pictured it happening like this. I never thought I'd be facing you behind the prosecution's bench. The so-called Reaper of the Bailey has been a scourge like no other, undermining Her Majesty's justice system. Today we must uncover the truth behind the scourge. Sorry. In other words, this trial is going to be a lot more far-reaching than Inspector Gregson's murder. The truth revealed by these proceedings may have unpredictable repercussions through the judiciary. Accordingly, they are to be conducted as a closed trial with no members of the public present. By Her Majesty's direct orders. Why are there so many shadows in the background, then? With that being the case, how will that work, my lord? The burden of all arbitration and adjudication falls on my shoulders. Therefore, as you will see, the juror's bench shall remain vacant today. The gallery doesn't seem empty, though. If no members of the public are present, may I ask who is currently occupying the gallery, my lord? Yeah, well, thank you for addressing that for me. They are members of the judiciary, here to witness proceedings and ensure an equitable trial. Sounds more like an excuse to not have to redraw the scenery just for this trial. To save on memory. Members of the judiciary. Oh my, this is a very unusual trial already. There is, of course, another unprecedented aspect to these proceedings on which I must elaborate. The counsels for the prosecution and the defense are both aliens of Great Britain. I believe it takes an outsider to see the truth sometimes, and as I stand here in this courtroom now, I'm quite certain. This is the reason why I had to come to Britain. Kazuma! Very well, let us commence proceedings. Prosecutor Asogi, your opening statement, if you please. Certainly, my lord. The incident took place on the 1st of November at just after 5 o'clock in the afternoon. The location was a building on flats on Fresno Street on the outskirts of the city. The victim's body was discovered there in an old single-room rental property. Yes, Inspector Tobias Gregson, a name known very well indeed to this court. Not least for his miraculous resolution of one of this country's grimmest cases 10 years ago, sorry. The Professor case. How sure are you about the time of the incident? Several witnesses on the street outside heard the gunshot and all have reported at the same time. Yes, that's what Gina told us too. There were a number of witnesses. I have here a plan of the room. The victim was found curled up in one corner. I believed that he was shot from the front at point-blank range and died instantly. It's believed, sorry. Oh, I can't read today. How has the range been determined? There were scorch marks around the entry wound. Such marks are caused by the gunpowder used to fire the bullet. But powder hot enough to leave scorch marks is only ejected a few inches beyond the end of the barrel. In other words, it only happens when the target is at point-blank range. I see, yes. Thank you for the detailed explanation, counsel. The autopsy report has been entered into the court record. The murder weapon was found lying beside the victim. And have you managed to ascertain the owner of this firearm? No, my lord. Not conclusively. Bravo, Kazuma-sama, for not trying to use the gun as evidence when its provenance can't be proven. Furthermore, my lord, as I've explained, the revolver was fired at extremely close range. The bullet passed through the victim and struck the wall behind him. There is a candelabra mounted on that wall, and the tip of one of the candles in it was found to have been blown off by the projectile. We noticed that too, didn't we? Yes, that's right. Thank you for the thorough report, counsel. The setting of the crime is clear to me. You will submit the plan of the crime scene as evidence, please. As you wish, my lord. The crime scene floor plan has been entered into the court record. Okay. Is this Fresno Street room Inspector Gregson's private abode? No, my lord. The room is rented by Mr. Hugh Boone. Hugh Boone. If there's a joke or a pun, I mean on the name, I don't get it. But there is precious little furniture inside, and it is generally in a poor state of repair. So what on earth was Gregson even doing there? Presumably he was investigating some case or other. When the policeman was informed of the gunshot from the witnesses and rushed to the scene, he found only the deceased inspector and the accused standing alongside, holding the revolver. The attending officer arrested the accused on the spot. So the details of the case are clear. In that case, the prosecution would like to call its first witness. A name, please, counsel? Naturally. The accused himself. Lord Van Zieks? As a prosecutor, he believes in the oath of office he's taken and will be compelled to tell the truth. Very well, let the defendants take the witness stand. So, witness, state your name and occupation for the court. Barak Van Zeeks, Old Bailey prosecutor. I presume, Lord Van Zeeks, that you heard Prosecutor Asogi's opening précis? Précis? Is that how you say it? Précis? I mean, I guess it means an explanation or description. It's a word that we have in French too, but it's kind of old French and we don't use it all that much in that kind of a context.
Crazy.
A praisey? Is that really how it's said? Yeah, it means a summary of something. Okay. Yeah. It is alleged that you were found at the scene of the crime, and that you were arrested by the arriving police officer. Can you confirm this? Yes, my lord. Then I'm sure the court would like to hear you explain some things away, namely why you were there in the room on Fresno Street at the time in question, and what exactly took place. I intend to explain away nothing, I will simply tell the truth. I must say, Lord Van Zeeks, I never imagined this day would come. Or rather, I didn't want to imagine it would come. But since you became known as the Reaper, a part of me has been dreading it. Your formal testimony then, witness. I was investigating Gregson and my inquiries that led me to that address. Why was he... I'm gonna have to press that already. When I first entered the room that day, it was dark inside and I saw no one. A moment later, I heard the gunshot. I spun around and saw the revolver on the floor. Just as I picked the firearm up to examine it, the door flew open and I heard a man scream. It was only then that the body of Inspector Gregson appeared before me. That testimony was the whole truth? It was. So, you heard a shot being fired in a room with no living occupants, and moments later a corpse somehow appeared before your eyes, is that it? You're right, you haven't explained away anything. In fact, that would barely qualify as an excuse. I thought you were my mute apprentice. Yet it turns out you have a way with words, Prosecutor Asogi. You tend to have that same kind of way with words. I mean, the student follows after the master. Or apprentice, I guess I should say. I guess they're Sith. So it is apprentice. It would appear to be a singular tale indeed. Singular as on the word, it's laughable. What's got into Kazuma? He's not behaving like himself at all. Very well then. Counsel, you may begin your cross-examination. Yes, my lord. Well, I already know I want to press on the first statement. Why were you investigating Gregson? Yeah, you were investigating the inspector? What on earth for? I'm not at liberty to say. Why not? Sorry? I'd identified the distinct possibility that Gregson was involved in a case I was investigating. Regrettably, though, he was killed before I could secure the proof I needed. Is the court to understand, then, that on the day in question, you followed the victim to the scene? No, I was privy to his movements in advance. How? I stole into his office in the yard and consulted his diary. The address on Fresno Street was noted in the 5 p.m. entry. You illegally entered the man's office? In Japan, that alone would constitute a very serious offense. As it does in Great Britain, I assure you. Is that not the case, Lord Van Zeeks? I was aware of the possible consequences. I don't like that statement. I was aware of the possible consequences. That means you know it's wrong, but you think that it's okay as long as you don't get caught. For a prosecutor, in terms of, how do you say that? Deontology? In terms of ethics? That won't do, sir. So in summary, you were investigating the victim, and yet you refused to tell the court why.
What's going on there?
I didn't realize British prosecutors enjoyed such freedom to choose what to divulge under oath. Ah, why did I ever think I could defend this man? When I first entered the room that day, it was dark inside and I saw no one. Had you ever been to the address before? No, never. I only learned of the place as a result of my investigations into Gregson's activities. There was no light inside when I entered, so it was all but impossible to make out anything. But at 5 PM, the sun would only just have gone down. It would still have been reasonably light outside. The room has a window, but it was boarded shut. Very little light found its way into the room from outside, so it was extremely murky inside. I wouldn't have noticed if the victim was already lying on the floor. There was no artificial light in the room, you say? You're quite sure? I'm quite sure that the part of the room where the body was found was very dark. I have a feeling there was a small oil lamp burning on the desk, though I couldn't say for certain. Look, Mr. Naruhodo. The candle that was shot, it looked taller than the others. Is it possible that it was lit? Is there any sign that it could have been? There are some black marks here, look. Yes, they look like some sort of scorch marks. So perhaps the bullet struck the candle here, do you think? It's only this one candle that's been cracked in half, it seems. Yes, I think you might be right. Firearms are rarely used by criminals in Japan, so I'm afraid I'm not particularly knowledgeable about them. They won't acknowledge any possibility that it could have been lit, so I guess there's no contradiction there. Why is the time of death not filled in, by the way? Also, the coroner is Maria Gori. Who is that? Victim was shot in the chest at close range from the front, resulting in instant death. Scorch marks at point of entry. The bullet exited the body from behind. Additional observations: the caliber of the gun used matches that of standard issue firearms for members of the judiciary. There is a small desk in the room just here. Yes, I remember, and there was an oil lamp on it, as well as the framed photograph. He wasn't killed by Kazuma seeking revenge for Gregson finding evidence of his father's guilt, leading to his execution. That couldn't have been, right? Just thinking. Yeah, I remember there was an oil lamp on it as well as the framed photograph. When I entered the room, I closed the door behind me and started towards the desk to investigate. And what did you find? Nothing. I never actually reached the desk. A moment later, I heard the gunshot. I spun around and saw the revolver on the floor. So, who fired the gun? I have no idea. I didn't see anybody else in the room. But you say it was very dark in there. Yes, that's right. All I can tell you is, I didn't sense another's presence. Then it could be that the gunshot actually originated from somewhere outside the room. No, that's out of the question. Without doubt, the sound emanated from inside the room. I could smell the gunpowder. Plus, he was shot at point-blank range. They told you, Linosuke. This is going from bad to worse. And you say that's the point at which you noticed the revolver on the floor? Correct. And I foolishly picked it up. That was carelessness on my part. Presumably then, the gunshot you heard came from the firearm that you somewhat hastily took in your hands. In point of fact, my lord, I believe it did not. What? The barrel of the revolver I picked up was cold, and there was no smell of spent powder. But then, where on earth is the gun that was fired? Whilst I would like to oblige you with an answer, I'm afraid I can't. I too would dearly like to know that. Just as I picked the firearm up to examine it, the door flew open and I heard a man scream. A man, you say? One of the witnesses, I presume? That's right, one of the street merchants working on Fresno Street. Who are these merchants? A number of them had set up their stalls directly beneath the boarded window of the crime scene. A match seller, a newsmonger, and a peddler. They've all given statements saying they heard the gunshot. And without thought of danger, they ran inside to see what had happened. Yes, Gina told us about that yesterday, didn't she? They burst through the door with some force, it would seem. They did, and almost gave me a heart attack in the process.
But you're supposed to be the Reaper!
The first man to come in immediately noticed the revolver in my hand and fled. A policeman patrolling on Fresno Street heard the commotion, and was able to arrest the accused shortly after the incident occurred. Anyway, the man's scream drew my attention in that direction. It was only then that the body of Inspector Gregson appeared before me. And what do you mean by that? In what way did the body appear? I honestly can't explain it, but it's the truth. As far as I was concerned, the body hadn't been there until that point, and then suddenly, there it was. Did you perhaps hear the sound of the victim falling to the ground just beforehand? At that moment, what I heard was the sound of the door flying open and the scream of the man who came inside first, nothing more. I see. After the man fled, I examined the body. I was stunned to find that it was Gregson. Most curious circumstances indeed. How the inspector was killed, or how his body seemed to appear out of nowhere, I have no idea. Surely the court has heard enough. My lord, the cross-examination has clearly revealed that the accused Barak Van Zieks is lying on multiple fronts. Oh, what is that supposed to mean? Good gracious, counsel. The defendant is lying, you say? In his testimony just now, he claims that he failed to notice the victim's body because the room was dark. That's correct. No, that's impossible. As proven by this candelabrum. How does that prove anything? If you examine the tip of the long candle, you can see it has been blown off by a powerful impact. One would assume that the projectile from the firearm passed through the victim and struck the candle. The problem comes when you consider the other two candles, which are clearly of a different length. Yes, I can see that only the candle that appears to have been struck by the bullet is long. Sorry. We could reasonably expect someone to have lit all three candles together, which begs the question of why only one has ended up longer than the others. That must be because that particular candle was extinguished when the others were still burning. Ah! That's right, when the candle was hit by the bullet, it obviously went out. But the other two candles would have still been burning, so the fact is, the victim's body would have been illuminated by the light still thrown by the candelabrum. and the accused's claim that he couldn't see the body clearly contradicts those facts. Well, there's nothing to say that the gunshot that was heard was indeed the one that took the candle. Maybe he was already down, maybe he was already dead when he entered, and already had been for a while, who knows. And now to the next lie. There's more. The accused also claims never to have visited the scene of the crime before. That's the truth. In that almost empty room, the police discovered something very unusual. A board covered from top to bottom in police documents and newspaper cuttings. Yes, that's right, we saw it too. It goes without saying that the contents of the police documents cannot be divulged. However, they included a number of reports from various historical cases. The oldest of which was from 10 years ago. 10 years ago? This is starting to sound familiar. And there is a common thread linking all of the documents on that board. Indeed, what is this common thread, Counsel? They all relate to cases prosecuted in court by Barak Van Zieks. All of them? And furthermore, all those cases are ones in which the defendant was acquitted. Good lord! Interestingly, none of those defendants are alive today, because all of them have been sent to their graves by the Reaper. Ah! Oh no! In short, that dingy little room is the Reaper's secret hideout, and his base of operations. The Reaper's hideout? And yet the Reaper would claim never to have been to his own secret hideout? No one would believe that. No, the truth is, we've been looking at this backwards. Backwards? Explain, Counsel. Inspector Gregson was investigating the identity of the Reaper. When he discovered the location of the man's secret hideout, he was killed. As I'm sure everyone can imagine, by the Reaper's hand. What?
Hold on.
Very well. I hereby state the current opinion of the court. Barak Van Zieks is an outstanding prosecutor who has rendered great service to his country. However, it is with deep regret that I must concur with Prosecutor Asogi's contention that the defendant's testimony exhibits a number of stark inconsistencies with the known facts. All I have done is state the truth as I know it. Kazma's done a brilliant job as ever. He's drawing on his experience as a defense attorney to build this prosecution case. And it's formidable. Counsel, you will submit the board that you just showed the court as evidence. I believe it to be fundamental in establishing the facts surrounding the Reaper's existence. Thank you, my lord. The notice board has been entered into the court record.
And now the prosecution would like to call new witnesses to the stand.
Hey! Always look behind. Oh, what's this? Mr. Naruhodo, look! Oh yes, it's a smudge of some kind. In fact, it looks just like a handprint. And the color, that's blood, isn't it? Oh dear, how disturbing. Details of the notice board have been updated in the court record. There are details of a whole raft of cases dating back years on here, aren't there? This paper from 10 years ago is browning with age, look. Out of interest, the most recent thing appears to be this newspaper cutting here. Oh, it's the same Redhead League advertisement that Mr. Shulmans had picked out. And do you remember? There was a red hairpiece at the scene too. Was Inspector Gregson an exponent of the Red-Headed League then?
I'm tired, people.
Witnesses who saw events unfold on the day in question. They were mentioned in the previous testimony too, if you remember. Yes, the street sellers who heard the gunshot and went running into the room. Very well, lead the witnesses in. The defendant may step down from the witness stand. Certainly, my lord. The Little Red Riding Hood. Hold on. Okay. There was one of them that I think I've seen before. Wasn't he the guy in the McGilded case? The one driving the carriage? Names, we don't use names. Far too fancy for the likes of us. We're just free and easy. Sell what we like, live where we want to live. I give them all a vacant stare as they walk down Fresno and spin a few words into a verse for them. Would I be right in assuming that all three of you make your living by selling wares on the street? Hey, everyone calls me Gossip. I sell jaunty little tidbits to passers-by, you know? Jaunty little tidbits? Got an absolute smasher for you, sir. Right up your ginno? Ginno. What's that? Northern English, a narrow passage between buildings, an alley. Okay. Okay, a narrow entrance between houses, yeah. Right up your alley, if you prefer, yeah. 6 pence is the price, and not a penny less. Wait, you're actually trying to sell it to me now? Oh, come on, sir, don't tell me you're not interested. Try the man. Give him the money and see what it is. Pay the man, counsel. Alright, 6 pence it is. You won't regret it, sir. Now got your listening ears on? Just between us, a young couple on Slight Street have just had twins. Right. Is that it? No, that's not it. It's gossip, isn't it? It wants to spread, but that bit's up to you and your what? And your it's up to you and your mouth, of course. I've got more, you know. Want another juicy one? 6 pence a piece it is, if you're curious. I am curious, yes, about what's going on just under that fat bottom lip of yours. Namely, that unusual bruise or whatever it is poking out from under your collar. What about the next witness then? What name do you go by and what do you sell? Me, I'm Venus. That's what everyone calls me. Funny, innit? She sells, fireworks? Yeah. I sell these lovely little fireworks to all the local school kids. 6 pence a pop. What you say? You weren't exaggerating with little. Do they actually sell? Oh yeah, the second years can't get enough of my Venus firecrackers. Especially when I tell them that if they get 100, they could blow up the school. Not the most savory of ideas, young lady. What you say then, eh? Wanna part with 6 pence for a pop? Oh, wait, what? You want me to buy one? Tell you what, I'll let you in on a little secret. If you get 100 of them, you could blow up the whole courtroom. Try the woman. Give her the money and see if she's right. Pay the woman, counsel. Alright, I'll buy one. Lovely stuff, right then. This is something a bit extra, just for you. the Venus special, only 600 pence. 600? It's 100 for my regular fireworks. Nothing little about that, is there? There'd be nothing little about the punishment if I blew up the Old Bailey either. Venus firecracker has been entered into the court record, okay?
Oh, blimey.
Okay. And the last witness, what name do you go by and what do you sell? I am a thinker, me. Think all sorts of thoughts. I think, therefore I am. I am, therefore I think. I think. Because I stand there on the street, watching the world go on about me. They call me the observator. Get out of it, old man. Everyone calls you Sandwich and you know it. So you don't actually sell anything? Well, he's advertising something. Problem shared is a problem halved, as they say. I give advice, I do. I think what it means. Hot, actual hero? Is that what it says? I don't actually sell anything, no, come to think of it. Pity. No more purchases today, please. We've quite a cast here, it seems. Sorry, I didn't have any coffee after having had dinner, so maybe that's why I feel drowsy. They conduct their business on Fresno Street from morning until night, my lord, and always in the same place, directly adjacent to the crime scene. I see, and thus they heard the gunshot, I suppose. Not only that, but they very bravely ran inside to see what was going on and witness the crime. Well, I'll be beggared, I thought. Just between us. Finis de Milo, what am I to do? What a terrible thing I saw. What I think is, if all what we see is light and shadow playing with our eyes, is any of it real?
Very well, the court will hear the formal testimony of these three witnesses now. You will describe in detail what you witnessed and heard at the time of the incident.
Have you had an idea, Mr. Naruhodo? You're staring at the end of the strings of fireworks. Sorry, it's just that it's the Venus special. I was wondering what 600 pence worth of fireworks would sound like. You know, it seems to me that the sound that was interpreted as a gunshot could have been one of her crackers, actually. What? But she said it could blow up the courtroom. It sounds reasonably like a gunshot, wouldn't you say? Alright, that was a fairly sizable bang. My ears are still ringing, Mr. Naruhodo. It sounded almost exactly like... There we go. We saw the whole thing from start to finish. We did everything from the moment they went in the building. It was less than a minute after the Reaper had gone inside that we all heard a big bang. Seems to me that quick to talk is quick to walk. Gossip couldn't wait to go and see what had happened.
I ran into the room and there he was, the Reaper, gun in hand, standing over the dead body. I was scared half to death, me, so I ran off to find a copper. If these witnesses were there the whole day and saw everything, who did they see going inside the building? Only the victim, Inspector Gregson, and the accused Barak Van Zieks. I've seen pictures of that Reaper in the paper. I know what he looks like. And just between us, folk love stories like this. I've made myself a tidy sum already. But wait, the room was just one of several flats in the building. Someone from another flat could have done it. All those flats on Fresno Street are unoccupied. Of course they are. They're small, damp, dirty, and expensive to boot. The room in which the inspector was found is the only property in the building that's currently leased. And we know the leaseholder's name, don't we? It's Hugh Boone. The testimony the court has just heard would appear to leave little room for doubt. It's becoming increasingly difficult to see how anyone other than the defendants could have committed the crime. No! Thank you for your candor, my lord. Counsel for the defense, you may proceed to cross-examine the witnesses. Yes, my lord. In a closed court like this without a jury, the judge is the only person whose opinion matters. I have to break down this testimony. Somehow. Okay. Saw the whole thing from start to finish. Or so he says. No, not gonna work like that? Okay. That would have been a bit too easy. Saw the whole thing from start to finish with it. Everything from the moment they went in the building. Go back. Seems to me that quick to talk is quick to walk. Gossip couldn't wait to go and see what had happened. By which, presumably, you mean the gunshot? I sell these little things, don't I? How would I know what a gunshot sounds like? But I've always thought it probably sounds a bit like this, doesn't it? And you say that you heard the noise almost as soon as you saw the defendant here enter the building. That's right, it was almost straight away. Bang, it went. Just like that. Well, he's the Reaper, ain't he? It's what the French call the fait accompli. When the Reaper is around, people are going underground. I mean, that's what he does, isn't it? I think we get the message. The Reaper couldn't allow the inspector to live after he discovered his secret hideout. There can be no clearer motive for the crime. Yes, it's certainly an eminently credible motive. Great. And at that point you ran inside, is that correct? When you say they, who do you mean exactly? Inspector Gregson and the defendant, Lord Van Zieks? I suppose so. The likes of us don't know the names of the high and mighty, but I'll tell you one thing, it was the old Reaper that went in last, that's for sure and certain. Just behind Inspector Gregson, did they arrive at the same time as each other? No, not at all. The first fella must have gone inside a good 15 minutes before we heard that gunshot. The victim arrived 15 minutes before? Are you sure about that? Am I sure? Does it seem likely that I'd have forgotten a fella with a bright red hair like that? Wait, what? Bright red hair? Yeah, his hair is really red, weren't it? Redder than my flaming fireworks even. That fiery red mop's still burnt on the inside of my eyelids, it is. Wait a minute, you're saying the man was a redhead? Weren't you listening, chum? Aye, it was a redhead, and he had a big trunk with him as well. Big trunk? But Inspector Gregson's hair isn't red, not by any stretch of the imagination. It seems likely that the person you saw wasn't in fact Inspector Gregson at all, but some other third party. No, I hate to break it to you, but the witnesses are correct. Just have a look at this photograph of the victim taken on the scene. Yes, that's Inspector Gregson, all right. And a red hairpiece. Of course, we saw one on the floor when we investigated the scene, didn't we? I still refuse to believe Inspector Gregson wore a hairpiece, though. So then why on earth would he have been wearing something like that? The color does seem to suit the man, one might say. The photograph will be submitted as evidence. Hello, Tin Can Bell and Society Guy. Hello, everyone. Class raid. The photograph of the victim has been entered into the court record. And what became of the trunk that the red-headed victim was supposedly carrying? I was informed that no trunk was found at the scene. Thank you for the follow, Tinkin Bell. So it just disappeared? What, do you expect us to have been watching the building every second, do you? I have, thank you for the raid, the Professor Gray. Sorry, I did not get the notification on my screen here immediately. I'll be back. I got a meeting at 2, but I decided to get them to raid. Yeah, thank you so much, Society Guy, for the advertisement. Welcome, everyone. Thank you, Professor Gray, for the follow. Would you expect us to have been watching the building every second, do you? We definitely saw him in the dock going in, though. No question about that. Oh, yeah, was that added to the court record, by the way? Ah, yeah. Well, he couldn't convince anyone that he was a redhead with that mustache of his. Less than a minute after the Reaper had gone inside. Yeah, okay, that I already pressed on. Seems to me that quick to talk is quick to walk. Gossip couldn't wait to go and see what had happened. Thank you, Scutstorm. So, when Gossip ran to see what had happened, did you go too? Well, me, I'm a bit hampered. See, all the signs are that I can't move very well. You were way behind, presumably, with that sandwich board around your neck and that big sign in your hand. What a great burden you bear. Pardon me for asking, Mr. Sandwich, but is there a profile for this character? Yeah, he looks like that guy driving the carriage in that McGilded case in the first of the 2 games. Okay. Is it possible you and I have met before? Yeah, well, there we go, yeah. I'm not anybody, me. The signs are what make me who I am now. I sign, therefore I am. He lost his... Yeah, he was the omnibus driver. He lost his job, I guess, because he took a bribe to lie in courtroom. Why is his name Sandwich? Because he's a sandwich man with, you know, the signs in front and at the back. He's an advertising guy on the streets. So you weren't employed as an omnibus driver just under a year ago then? Yeah, he has it around him right now. You call these sandwich men, I guess, in general. I might be mistaken, but I believe his trembling has intensified, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes, I agree. He's clearly been through a lot. Learned something new. Turn down King Henry Street and the Black Widower's Arms is just there. Oh dear, you've made him hide behind the sign. Life is full of surprises. I don't think I learned anything important from that piece of testimony. I ran into the room and there he was, the Reaper, gun in hand, standing over the dead body. So then you were the first person to arrive on the scene, is that right? That I was. Kicked the door open like a professional I did and yelled out, "What's going off here?" Lord Van Zieks claims all he heard was a man scream, though. And was it dark inside the room? No, not dark at all. There were candles burning on the wall. Really? And there was a fella collapsed on the floor. Just between us, it's the first thing I noticed when I got inside. I see. Even though Lord Van Zieks claims not to have seen any such lights on the wall. The next thing I noticed was someone standing right beside the body. The accused, Barak Van Zieks. That's right, the pale-faced Reaper himself. I was a little shocked, I won't deny it, but I'm no lily-livered coward. I stood my ground and gave the Reaper a cold hard stare myself. What is it? Would you like to add something, Mr. Sandwich? There's really nothing to me. Empty in the head, I am. Just 2 slices with no metal. So I don't know what you could want with me. I think that maybe you just remembered something. Having heard Mr. Gossip's last statement, I mean. What I think is, we're all nothings, really. We try to dress ourselves up as something else, but at the end of the day, we're all just street sellers. Do you need to be smart to be good at this game? Well, you kind of have to unravel the mystery surrounding each case. But you could also poke your way around and try to present evidence at random and still be lucky and still manage to finish the game. So I guess no, probably not. But it certainly helps, that's for sure. Unless you want us to make you into a real sandwich. When he saw the Reaper, he fell clean over on his backside. That's it. Oh, you rotten beggar. I told you to keep that a secret. He screamed, he did, screamed, and scrambled off on all fours. That's all I wanted to say. Mr. Gossip, is this true? The floor was dead slippery, that's why. Planted my hand in a filthy pool of blood, didn't I? Yuck. Oh? A pool of blood? Hey, the handprint with blood on it that's at the back of the notice board on the scene of the crime. That could have been him then. But listen here, even when I was sprawled on the floor, I still kept giving that Reaper a cold hard stare, and don't you forget it. Let's just go back a little. Did you say you got blood on your hand? I did, Happens to the best of us at times, doesn't it? So I was scared, so I slipped over. We can keep it just between us, can't we? No, Mr. Gossip, I'm going to have to ask you to add that information to your formal testimony. Oh, if I must. The witness will amend his testimony to include the aforementioned details at once. Okay. I may have to present that piece of evidence here then. I quickly wiped it off on the floor. Yeah, that sounds like a lie. I'm gonna save just in case this is not the right thing. It does help being smart, well, yeah. For putting the pieces together. Yeah, there we go. That was the right piece of evidence at the right time. So you wiped off the blood from your hand on the floor of the room. Are you quite sure about that? Well, what else do you expect me to have done, eh? Does it really matter? But there's something I don't understand, though. You don't see any... I mean, if he did put his hand in the pool of blood, I guess you would see his hand mark being left in the blood. Or maybe they just didn't think of it in quite as hard when they were writing the scenario, I guess. Well, what else do you expect me to have done, eh? Does it really matter? We didn't find any bloodstains, hand marks on the floor. The police found no such handprint on the floor during their investigations. What exactly is the defense asserting? If you listen, you'll find out. Prosecutor Asogi. Certainly, there was no bloody handprint found on the floor. What are you trying to say? There was a handprint in blood left very clearly at the scene. On the back of this notice board. Yes, indeed. Indisputably a handprint in the distinctive color of blood. Aye, you're dead right. That's my right hand. I'd know it anywhere. He admits to it. I likely screw up if I do a first playthrough via stream. This is my first time too. I mean, sometimes I make mistakes too, so that's why I save before I try to present something, because you're only allowed a certain amount of mistakes before you get a game over. Rudy's a smart boy. Well, thank you. But I mean, sometimes things can be a bit misleading, because you may think that the logic would go in a certain direction, but the game is intends you to enter something, and it may not necessarily be the most obvious thing that comes to mind. I know in some games it's harsher than in others. The witness very definitely testified that he wiped his hand on the floor. I believe in the Apollo Justice games it gives you less chances to fail. In some of the older games, it's not so much a fixed amount of chances to fail, but you have a gauge, and depending on the case in which you're playing, one mistake can take away more of the gauge. I think it's more along those lines. I played all the previous games except for all the others on the 3DS. The two Phoenix Wright games on the 3DS, I haven't played those yet. I kind of wish they put them on the Switch so I could buy them too, so I could play them at last. That way I would have played the whole franchise. That and the Layton versus Ace Attorney crossover game also, I haven't played that either. The witness very definitely testified that he wiped his hand on the floor. Any handprints on the back of the board are irrelevant. Not if the board itself had fallen over onto the floor. In that case, it's quite possible for the witness's handprint to have ended up there. I do own a 3DS myself, but I didn't buy them because we didn't get released physically in Europe. Only digitally. And I wasn't interested in buying them digitally. Actually, we didn't get a physical release for these either. I had to import my copy of this one from North America. But the 3DS was region locked, so I couldn't do it there. I watched the anime too, actually, and my brother owns the manga, so I also read that. But it's kind of follows the anime anyway, and the game, so in that case, it's quite possible for the witness's handprint to have ended up there. Yeah, you could watch them for. Yeah, I'm from Belgium. You could watch them for free on Crunchyroll at some point. I don't know if they're still on there. The Ace Attorney anime. Just look at the floor plan of the room. The notice board was in the opposite corner of the room to the victim and in an upright position. Even if it had someone been toppled and was lying on the floor at the time, it would have been a considerable distance from the body. I fell over when I came across the body, so I was basically right next to the corpse, not on the other side of the room. In other words, the defense's assertion is contradictory. From Germany, actually near the border of Belgium. Well, we're not too far away from one another then. Sounds like. A bus to Belgium's costs like 8 euros? Yeah. Yes, it is. There's a very definite contradiction here, for which there must be a reason. I take it that you've formulated a proper hypothesis, Counsel, regarding this apparent discrepancy between the witness's account and the handprint found on the scene. Good old Flixbus. I'm not close enough to the border myself to know about those buses specifically. I have, my lord. This discrepancy between the witness's account and the location of the handprint is explained by false testimony. Could it be? Well, actually, so you see here, this is one case where I'm not quite sure where the game is taking me. It's just one of many brands. They aren't that special, but they are all over Germany. I'm gonna go with false testimony. I think this is probably the most likely thing. The witness claims to have wiped his bloody hand on the floor, yet no sign of that remains at the scene. The simplest explanation is that the witness is lying. Just because it's the simplest explanation doesn't make it the correct one. Ryunosuke, naruhodo. Occam's razor. Sorry. If it's a concept in science, maybe it applies here too. That the simplest explanation is the the most logical one. Positing perjury simply because it suits you. You bring shame on your Japanese heritage. Alright, oh, okay, this was incorrect, see? I got a penalty for this. I screwed up. I would ask you to not oversimplify again. Yeah, okay. Yeah, here, I don't have an explanation for how the handprint found itself where it is. So, the board moving. I think if there was another handprint, we would have found it. So I don't think it could have been another handprint. The real contradiction here is the handprint itself, not where it was found. As the court can see, it's upside down. Good gracious, so it is. If the witness had put his hand against the board, the fingers should be pointing upwards. If the notice board was upright when it was touched, anyway. What does that tell us? It tells one simple fact. When this handprint was made, the board must have been lying on the floor. Yeah, there's a plot point about people wearing red wigs or something. I've not quite been able to link it to the murder itself. But they keep mentioning it, so it's probably got something to do with it. The board must have been lying on the floor, as I previously suggested. Which means that after the incident, it must have been moved. What? You're claiming that somebody moved the notice board after the shooting? Then tell the court who. I don't know that yet, but the point is, when you consider all the testimony we've heard so far, we can now be very clear on one point. And that would be the position of the notice board at the time of the incident, my lord. It would have been closer to the door, maybe? So, counsel, I must ask you to clarify your assertion for the court. That could explain why Van Zieks didn't see the candles being lit, or Gregson himself when he came in. He said he didn't see any lights in the room other than the lamp on the table by the chimney. That would explain it. And the body and the candles would have been behind it. About here, I'd say. Concealing the candles and the victim. It was right here, my lord. Goodness. No, I'm afraid I don't quite see your logic. What? That's not it? It makes perfect sense, though. I'm disappointed, Ryunosuke. In Japan, we're taught to have patience and respect for our elders. So until his lordship sees your logic, you will know your place and not move from that spot. Oh, but come on, it makes perfect sense. How brilliant of Kazuma-sama. That almost sounded unreasonable at first, but he was just thinking of you. Unreasonable, try unfathomable. I think I have the answer now. I know my place. Or rather, I know the board's place. Van Zieks says that he didn't see the victim coming in. But that could also be explained by how the door opens. That part of the room would have been concealed by the angle with which the door opens. Yeah. Huh. I didn't consider it from that angle before. Actually, then I don't know. He says he put his hand in the puddle of blood. I don't know. I don't know then. Not here, I guess. Here? It was right here, my lord. Goodness, no, I'm afraid I don't quite see your logic. Okay, so that's not it. I don't see the logic myself. Closer to the door? Here, I have to poke my way around because, I don't understand the logic. In front of the window? Eventually, I'll have tried every possible location, I guess. I kinda wish I could reason my way through it, but I just don't know where the game is going. Here? Closer to the door? Ah, like this, you mean? Well, that kind of would follow the logic that I had at first, but I would have imagined that it would be closer to the body, though, obscuring it more. This is the only possible location, immediately adjacent to the doorway. If the court would think back to the testimony given by the defendant earlier, he said that when he entered the room, it was dark, and he couldn't see the body. That's exactly what I said earlier, so it would have made sense for the notice board to be much closer to the body, the way I immediately thought of. Because there, when he walked towards the table, it wouldn't have been in the body would not have been in the blind angle. He would have been able to see it and the candles from there. My explanation made more sense, I feel. By heck! If the notice board had been here, the body would have been completely hidden from view. Not quite if he was right in front of the table, I would argue. But anyway, okay, well. If the... Okay, and the light from the candles would have been blocked, making the room appear darker. That's exactly what I said. But the accused also claims that the victim's body simply appeared before him. Because the panel fell at that moment. That's true, or in his precise words... Just as I picked the firearm up to examine it, the door flew open and I heard a man scream. It was only then that the body of Inspector Gregson appeared before me. I don't know about calling it a scream, but it was talking about me and no mistake. Because it was me that kicked the door open. If you look again at the floor plan... Consider what would happen if the door to the room was thrown open with force. That can't... yeah, okay, yeah, that makes perfect sense then. The door struck the notice board, knocking it over and making the victim's body visible. Good gracious. My client has told nothing but the truth. He has simply described what he saw. I can't quite read what is written on his sign, that sandwich guy. Horda, counsel is now this... Counsel, how has this not come to light before now? After the incident, somebody must have righted the board and moved it. Into the position where the police, myself, and my colleague saw it when investigating the room. Witness, what have you to say for yourself? Me, my lord. You and your fellows were there at the scene before anybody else. It goes without saying that you must know something about the position of the notice board. The witnesses in the stand will testify again. You will each explain exactly what you did upon arriving at the scene of the crime. Stop looking over your glasses at me, I get the message. Does he have half-moon spectacles? Like Dumbledore? The mystery of the moving board. Okay. I don't know anything about that there notice board. I just wiped my hand on it, that's all. Well, don't look at me. I haven't got a clue about it. I was doing business with some second years at the time. I don't know anything about anything. I'm just a bystander. Me, just a sign at the crossroads of life. It was the Reaper, I bet. He's got a face that screams bored. Yeah, okay. That was quite the statement. I can't see how this changes anything anyway. The detective still died when we heard the gunshot.
How do you know that? How do you know that he wasn't already dead before? So none of you can elaborate further. Shaken by the crime they witnessed, and with only the light of a few candles and an oil lamp by which to see. We can't expect these witnesses to be able to give a more precise account of what happened. That's right, yeah, I don't pay to expect too much. It's man's endless quest for knowledge that's just destroying the world, that's what I think. Do you? Really? In any case, as this testimony shows, even if the notice board was moved by somebody following the incident, it makes no difference. When the gunshot rang out, the accused was the only person at the scene. I still argue that it was not a gunshot and it was the sound of a cracker. In short, the only person who could possibly have committed this crime is Barak Van Zieks. None of this wrangling over the board changes that simple fact. Quite so, quite so. Does the defense still wish to cross-examine the witnesses, despite the circumstances? Most certainly, my lord. Very well. Then you may proceed, counsel. I gotta go, get some sleep. It's 2:20 a.m. here. Hope you have a great stream. Oh my. Yeah, it is, quite late for you. Have a good sleep then, Professor Gray. Thank you for hosting and for following. Wait, is Hubert on trial? Yeah, it's Hubert on trial. Yeah. I mean, with him being the Reaper of the Bailey and everything, yeah, you could see that coming, I guess. I don't know anything about that there notice board. I just wiped my hand on it, that's all. Don't look at me. I haven't got a clue about it. I was doing business with some second years at the time. It's this statement that I'm not so sure about, that I want to press the most. It was 5 o'clock in the afternoon that you all heard the loud bang, wasn't it? Maybe the notice board fell over, or maybe it didn't. Maybe I fell over, or maybe I didn't. But the Reaper's fate is sealed either way because of that gunshot we all heard. So your fate's sealed too. My fate? That's right. The defense is fated to lose and the prosecution to win. In other words, it all hinges on that single gunshot. So if I could just find some problem with that part of the story, it may be possible to change all our fates. Actually, when she says that she said something about selling crackers to second years. She just sold them crackers, so maybe they just cracked one of them, no? And that's what they heard? None of that changes the fact that I heard what I heard, does it? Not much to go on. As you've pointed out, Mr. Naruhodo, there's no question that the notice board was moved, so somebody must have done it, but it did happen after the event, so maybe Kazuma is right and it's not relevant to the case. But it seems to have been deliberately positioned so as to hide the body from view, so I feel sure that there's some deeper significance to all of this. Yes, I know what you mean. I've no doubt there are more clues to be uncovered. You're on the right track, I can feel it. I have to press on her statement, Venus. Alright then. She was selling crackers to second years, right? When you say you were doing business with them, you mean you were selling them fireworks? Yeah, fireworks, that's what I meant, yeah. Yeah, what else? There's the Priory School just around the corner, see? Those cheeky little so-and-sos have got a plan to blow up their school to Kingdom Come. So I've been telling on them, letting their teachers know what they're up to. Oh, you have? Yeah, I wouldn't want anyone to get hurt, so I let the school know the kids are playing with dodgy toys. Then, praise the Lord, the teachers take all the fireworks off them. And then, praise the Lord again, the kids all come back to me to buy more. Everyone's happy, see? What a racket. Of course, and sometimes the teachers give me a little bonus to thank me for letting him know. It's a busy old life selling explosives. It would be even better if the teachers gave them back to her so she could sell the same ones over and over.
Don't even need to make new ones. Venus is a guileful goddess indeed. Well, telling barefaced lies is kind of my thing, really. I'm ever so good at it. Hey! Got anything to add? Something wrong, Mr. Sandwich? If I said it was, could we just leave it at that? Would that be the end of it? No. Did Miss Venus's statement just now bring something to mind, perhaps? Philosophical thoughts. Deep philosophical thoughts. Let's say there was a great liar, and that great liar said, without batting an eye, telling barefaced lies is kind of my thing. I'm ever so good at it. Would those words of hers be a lie too, or the truth, in which case she's not a liar? Oh, it's a hellish paradox, that one, don't you think? I'm not entirely sure, to be honest, but it seems to me you're suggesting Miss Venus has been lying, are you? He's looking at her. What are you on about, old man? Trying to cause trouble, are you? Keep on like that. And I'll wrap your whole body in firecrackers and set them off. That'll give you something to tremble about. You have a startlingly disturbing mind behind that sweet and innocent face, young lady. That little Red Riding Hood. Is that what you're saying, Mr. Sandwich? Well, if it means I'll be burning in hellfire for the rest of my days, so be it. Yes, that's what I'm saying. Can you elaborate, please, sir? Old Blabbermouth here, headed for the room where the gunshot seemed to come from. But there was someone else who crept up the stairs behind him, too. That's right. That rotten liar over there. Hehe. So she went in. Do you mean to say that you did in fact betake yourself to the scene of the crime after all? What did I tell you, eh? I said I was good at telling barefaced lies, didn't I? Yes, you mentioned it. Well, that revelation rocked the whole courtroom, didn't it? Who knew firecrackers packed such a punch? So you did indeed visit the scene of the crime, did you, young lady? Good grief. Well, now you come to mention it, I suppose perhaps I do clearly remember climbing the stairs to the room, yeah. Either you clearly remember it or you don't. Well, I shall consider a fitting punishment for this perjurious act later. For the time being, you will immediately amend your testimony to reflect the truth. Oh yes, my lord, of course. Maybe I did sneak along behind gossip and have a little peek into the room where it all happened. I don't see what that changes, though. I still feel like I have to present the firecrackers at some point, and point out that it sounds like a gunshot, and that could be what they heard. The Venus Special Firecracker, consisting of 100 smaller fireworks at 6 pence each, it goes off like a gunshot. But she wasn't inside when the sound brought them inside, so... Well, let's press, see what else I can glean from this. You make a habit of lying, do you, Miss Venus? Well, I suppose so. I don't really know, to be fair. If you want my advice, though, I'd take everything I say with a big pinch of salt. Alright, but you did in fact go to the room where the victim was killed on the day in question, didn't you? Oh, please, as if I would. Can't think of anything more terrifying. The truth, please. Well, alright, just a bit then. I mean, a girl my age is curious about stuff, you know? Did you touch anything at the scene? Oh, please, as if I would. I mean, there was a dead body on the floor. The truth, please. Yeah, I knew it. Well, alright, just a bit then. I had a look to see if there was anything I could sell. And... So I did give the place a once-over, but it was nothing to write home about. Is she telling the truth here now? Right now, I hesitate to ask, but you didn't move the notice board by any chance, did you? The truth, please. I like this guy. Oh, please, as if I would touch anything like that. Just a few bits of loose change is all I had. The truth, please. And that running gag. Well, alright then, I thought there might be something worth having underneath it, so I blasted the flippin' thing. Sorry, flipped the blasted thing. You're telling us that you did move that board? I think that did slip out, didn't it? You daft barn pot! I don't believe it. The girl doesn't think. So, did you find anything then? Something that you might have taken, perhaps? To sell? Oh, please, I should be so lucky in my imagination. The truth now! I might have found this old pocket watch under the notice board, I suppose. But a bit of junk like this can't be worth much if you ask. Ah! Gina? So it was you, was it? You're the one who took it! Gina! Young lady, may I remind you where you are? That watch there. It belongs to the boss, I bet. That was a present to Inspector Gregson from the yard for a big case he solved 10 years ago. The professor case, no doubt. The boss used to wind it up every evening without fail when he was waiting for his grub to come at the pub. I see. Swept it off him once, and blimey was he upset. He gave me a right earful. Said he hadn't missed a day in the last 10 years polishing it and winding it. It meant the world to him, that watch did. Possibly not the best thing to go diving for then. Okay, so she said that he winds it up at lunch. I bet that if it stopped at a certain time, that will mean that he did not wind it up like he used to at lunch, and therefore he must have died a long time before 5 p.m. I could see them going with that. It's not all that though. I took it to Jabez's that night to ask how much it was worth, but the old dealer wouldn't touch it, wouldn't give me a penny for it, said it wasn't working, knocked about and worthless he called it. Ah, I knew I should have lifted it. Well, yeah, I think that's what he said, yeah. That watch must be submitted as evidence at once. Oh, please, just so long as you promise to give it back when we're done. Not a chance. I'll swipe it from you if you try to get your grubby mitts on it again. That's enough. Hand the watch to the bailiff forthwith. Now, children, watch your manners. Can I have a look at it? Good lord. The glass appears to be broken. Or that tells us when he died. I mean, the autopsy report omits to say when he died, so even the coroner isn't sure. Hold on. Yeah, time of death it's blank. They said that they heard the gunshot at 5 p.m., but the coroner isn't so categoric about it. The glass appears to be broken. More than likely it shattered when the inspector was shot. It doesn't tick anymore either. So yeah, no, the argument that he always kept it wound up is to signify that it wasn't stopped at the time that it broke. That's why they give you that piece of information, I guess. It doesn't tick anymore either. Which is why Jabez didn't want it. What a waste, eh? Yes, indeed, it appears to have stopped at the hour of 5. Ah, crap! Well, then again, that doesn't mean that it was 5 p.m. necessarily. It could have been 5 a.m. Exactly when the gunshot was heard, then. Which supports the prosecution's claim, of course. Okay. Well, it would appear that the mystery of the moving notice board has been solved at least. The glass over the face really is badly cracked, look. What a shame, when the inspector clearly looked after it so carefully. I imagine Mr. Sholmes could repair it, don't you? Yes, I should think so. He's very adept at things like this. A useful man to have around, in fact. But kindly remember that he's a great detective, Mr. Naruhodo, not an odd-job man. Also, I don't know how you call that in English, but the wind-up key or something is missing. There's a tiny little stub sticking out from this small hole here, look. I suppose there must have been a little, yeah, knob, yeah, or something on that for setting the time. Or winding it up, no? In that case, seeing as we know the inspector took such good care of his watch, it probably broke when the incident occurred, didn't it? Yes, of course, which could mean that there's a small part of the watch still at the scene. Maybe. Oh no, you mean... I know! I figured it out. No, this is how you wind it up. And it's that little policeman figurine that has a kind of small key at the end of it that he used to wind it up. Ah, there's a tiny little keyhole here, can you see? Oh yes, that's probably for the winder used to wind up the mechanism. Yeah, because on some other later, or more recent, I should say, models of watches, it's the same thing for winding up the watch. And for setting the time, like you pull on it, and then you can set the time, and when you push it back in, if you rotate it then it will wind it up. But I guess this is an older system. The winder used to wind up the mechanism. It looks a little unusual, don't you think? Yes, you'd need just the right key to wind it, I imagine. ... Why do I feel as though I've seen something? Something a bit like a key that's about the right size to fit in this hole. It would be wonderful if we had the key. Let's check carefully over what we've already found, but I've already figured it out, so, Okay, rotate it. Uh-huh. Well, we've already had this, so, but now I have to look at it again, and they're gonna put the two together, and the piece of evidence should get updated. Mrs. Sato, do you think perhaps this key could be the key for Inspector Gregson's watch? Oh, yes, it could be. Let's try it at once. There's not a moment to lose. There we go. Okay. I knew it. A perfect fit. And look, the inspector's watch has started going again, so it wasn't broken at all then. What does that tell us then? It kept going until it stopped, but it didn't stop from breaking. It stopped because it was at the end of its coil, or however you want to say it, when something is wound up like this. So it has obviously just not been wound up, that's all. What is it, Mrs. Sato? Well, if the watch isn't actually broken after all, I have a feeling it could have profound implications. At least you can't use that perhaps as a piece of evidence to say he died at 5 p.m. At the very least. She's deep in thought now. Perhaps I'd better start thinking deeply too. Inspector Gregson's pocket watch that he wound without fail every single day. Having wound it up, it started ticking again. Does that mean that it wasn't wound up at lunch? Well, what we know doesn't really tell us if it was only wound up once per day and lasted 24 hours. Or if he had to wind it up multiple times a day, and one of these times was his lunchtime. Okay, and as predicted, it had very little bearing on the case. Now then, continue with your cross-examination, please, counsel. Okay, yeah, that previous cross-examination is still not over, then. My Wi-Fi died. What did I miss? I don't know when it died, your Wi-Fi, but the watch that was found under the notice board isn't actually broken. It just hadn't been wound up. That's all. It died when the judge said the glass is broken. Yeah, but actually it didn't. It's not dead, it's still functioning. It just needed to be wound up, and we had the key to wind it up. It was hidden inside a little figurine of a bobby, of a policeman. But now actually I don't know where to go. Yeah, no problem. Was that Reaper, I bet. He's got a face that screams bored. Well, we now know that this is not the case. That who moved the notice board. Can't see how this changed anything anyway. The detective still died when we heard the gunshots. I mean, I could present that thing, I guess. Well, I guess I could present the watch on the last one. He still says that he died when they heard the gunshot. Okay, I'm gonna save here. Ah, okay. This is what was expected of me. I'm afraid that's not necessarily the case. Yeah, and then he's gonna argue that, but they heard the gunshot, so it had to have been at that time. And then I can counter-argue, but it could have, the sounds could have come from one of those firecrackers. I mean, I could be. At the scene, we found this key to the winder of the inspector's pocket watch. A key? And having wound the pocket watch, we discovered that it in fact still works. You see, the watch didn't stop because it was broken at all. And that fact completely undermines one of the most fundamental premises on which this entire case has been built. What? Hold on! But counsel, the watch was stopped at almost exactly 5 o'clock. Well, if it hadn't been wound up, maybe it is because he was already dead at lunchtime. Yeah, which is just when we heard that gunshot. It is exactly the hour. Or another theory. Since the little knob that is used to set the time on the watch is missing, it is also possible that someone changed the time on it to make it seem like it stopped at 5 p.m. That's another possibility. The knob is missing. Why is it missing? Did somebody change the time and then remove it on purpose? Because we didn't find that knob at the scene of the crime. The time that was showing on the watch tells us nothing other than when it wound down. Yeah. It's merely a coincidence that it happens to be at 5 o'clock. Even if that's true, the 3 witnesses here all heard the gunshot at 5 o'clock. So that's obviously when this crime was committed. No, that doesn't hold. Why not? Recall what Inspector Lestrade said only moments ago. The boss used to wind it up every evening without fail when he was waiting for his grub to come at the pub. Every evening? Said he hadn't missed a day in the last 10 years, polishing it and winding it. It's at dinner time, not lunch. He misunderstood that. It meant the world to him, that watch did. The victim was in the habit of winding his watch once a day in the evening. We can reasonably assume, therefore, that he wound the timepiece on the evening before he died as well. Well, to be fair, Gregson was seen 24/7 with his bag of fish and chips, so, there was no real meal time for him. He ate at every hour of the day, so we can reasonably assume, therefore, that he wound the timepiece on the evening before he died as well. Yes, that would be entirely reasonable. But if that's the case, you wouldn't expect the watch to have completely wound down by 5 o'clock the following day. Oh, well, how do you explain that? In summary, the evening before the day of the incident, when the gunshot rang out in that room, the inspector was already unable to wind his watch. You can't mean... What would stop a man winding his watch if he's been in the habit of winding it every single evening for 10 years? Plus, the coroner didn't put the time of death in the report, in the autopsy report, and that is weird too. Like, if they're so sure of at what time he died, I mean, but then the coroner only draws his conclusions from examining the body, I guess, not from the other elements of evidence, I guess, from the scene, perhaps? Or maybe if there were conflicting information, like if rigor mortis had already started to go away. I mean, if they examined the body, like, say, 3 hours after he was supposedly dead, after he was supposedly killed, and he wasn't stiff as a board already by then, and the rigor mortis had already started to fade away, like they explained in the previous case, that could have been a contradicting evidence, and then they just couldn't decide on it. What would stop a man winding his watch if he's been in the habit of winding it every single evening for 10 years? The obvious answer is that he was already dead. Hot actual hero? Is that what's written on his board? Order! Counsel, that is a most extraordinary claim. Extraordinary isn't the word, it's absurd. You claim he was already dead the night before? Do you really think that Scotland Yard's coroner would have overlooked something like that? Well, actually... on that subject, there is something rather surprising. Yeah, they're getting to it. That's gonna get addressed. There's actually an omission in the coroner's report. The time of death is not noted. That's right. Wait a minute, you're forgetting that my legs went from under me when I kicked the door in. What do you mean? Like I said, I planted my hand in a dirty, great puddle of blood. Well, and then again, if the blood hadn't dried yet, it couldn't have been dead for very, very long either. It wasn't like he was killed the night before or something. Maybe in the morning or in the early afternoon. Yes, so the victim's blood hadn't dried, it was fresh. Yeah, well, yeah, there you go, yeah. He catches on fast, doesn't he? But that blood could be explained in any number of ways. It could have been put there afterwards. That's kind of a far-fetched theory, that. Some fresh blood could have been poured over the body. Yeah, well, does my learned friend think that fresh blood is available on every street corner? Yeah. No. I wouldn't go that far. Well, it needn't necessarily have been human blood, of course. Well... But the coroner would be able to say that. Because in the previous case, Dr. Scythe, the coroner that was found to be guilty of murder in the previous case, she said that she was able to tell between animal blood and human blood. We've been told previously that Scotland Yard has no way to identify blood as human. Oh, really? That's what she said? I thought she said the contrary. The problem is currently being researched. At present, you are correct. It is beyond our abilities. Oh, okay. So then, chicken's blood could have been used, for example. It's certainly a possibility that it wasn't the inspector's blood at all. He could have been killed somewhere else. But the gunshot was heard at 5 o'clock that afternoon. That's beyond question. Could have been firecrackers. Is it, though? What? Given that the time of death of the victim has already been called into question, It isn't beyond the realms of possibility that what these witnesses heard wasn't a gunshot at all. Oh, please, what are you trying to say? Us lot know what we heard, and it was a loud bang that came from that there room. Now, you listen to me. A street seller's ears are his livelihood. I don't doubt your ears, sir, but all you can state with certainty is that you heard a noise. Eh? Explain yourself then, counsel. A noise that sounds like a gunshot could have been made with... Yeah, we're getting there, slowly. Something like this. The culprit could have set one of these to fake a gunshot. Yeah, with the firecrackers. Good gracious, the very fireworks that are sold by the witness. Well, it makes sense, and plus the fact that when you examine the piece of evidence that's in the court record, they say that it does sound like a gunshot. You can see where this is going from the outset. Like, if they update the piece of evidence to say it sounds like a gunshot, it's meant to tell you, okay, this will come into play later. I mean, it's game logic. My pretty little firecrackers only make a little pop anyway, see? Not 100 of them together. The Venus special that you sell for 600 pennies sounds like this. As the court can now attest, it sounds very much like a gunshot, in fact. You're trying to suggest that somebody set one of those fireworks at the scene? Off at the scene, sorry. I'm suggesting that somebody knew the defendant was in the room at 5 that day, and sought to implicate him by creating a sound like a gunshot for these peddlers on Fresno Street to hear. And I argue that someone set the watch precisely to that time on purpose. But I don't know if they're getting to that specifically, or just yet. And that's why the knob is missing, perhaps. But even the accused himself has testified that he saw no one else in the room at the time. Whether it was a gun or a firecracker, the only person present to cause that bang was Baruch Van Zeeks. One whiff of a match and my firecrackers go pop, see? That's why people like him. I fear for your fingers, young lady. Recently, during my time here in Britain, I've learned of a very useful invention indeed. Something called a time bomb. Good heavens, a bomb? Yes, a device that allows you to blow up whatever you like, whenever you like. Mr. Naruhodo, I worry that your unfortunate phrasing there may lead to yet another international incident. No, wait, it's the whenever you like part that's important. A timed device? Yes, exactly, a timed device. Something of that nature could have been planted at the scene. A device that was able to produce the sound of a gunshot long after the culprit had left. Well, they could have used the candle, perhaps? Say, for example, that somebody melted part of the candle, put the how'd you call that, the wick of the firecracker inside the candle, so that as the candle burns down, slowly down, the flame goes down, it lights up the wick at a certain on a delay, so to speak, and then the thing went off, such that this thing was not blown off by a bullet at all. Actually, it was blown up by a firecracker, and that's why it's that black. Maybe. I don't know. Just a thought. Your extravagant claim will have to be substantiated with evidence, counsel. What proof do you have to suggest in any way that the timed device was employed to create the gunshot sound? Well, maybe. I'm gonna save here because I'm not sure that this is necessarily the case. But I think it could be. I don't see what else it could be. This seems to be the right answer. As the court has already discussed, the tip of one of the candles in this candelabrum has been blown off. Indeed, because it was struck by the bullet which presumably passed through the victim, but the bullet wouldn't have made the candlestick black, though. I don't think that's possible, my lord. Not possible? Why? because of the scorching. There are gunpowder scorch marks clearly visible on the broken candle. And there are gunpowder scorch marks around the bullet hole on the victim as well. He was shot at point blank. The candle wasn't shot at point blank too, that wouldn't have made sense. There are... Goodness, yes. But is it not the case that there was also scorching on the victim around the bullet entry wound? That's right, there was. But as we heard earlier, scorching like that only occurs when the target is at very close range, a matter of centimeters from the gun. Ah. Which means that the scorching on the candle can't possibly be the result of a gunshot. Not a gunshot that went through the victim first, anyway. You're suggesting it came from the fireworks? How can that be, eh? The fact that there's such visible scorching on the candle suggests that the fireworks must have been right next to it when they exploded. Or to put it another way, the candle and firecrackers were joined together. That's what I said, yeah. That was my idea. Ah, well, but here they say that they were, just tied together with a bit of wire or something. Of string. The culprit somehow attached the firecrackers at a point partway down the candle. After the killer had left the scene, the candle slowly burnt down along with the other two. Yeah. Until eventually it ignited the fuse of the firecrackers, generating a loud bang. And that is how these three witnesses came to believe they'd heard a gunshot at 5 o'clock. Well, what a plot. And this implies that the victim could have died earlier than we've been led to believe, the previous day even. We're gonna have to ask the coroner why they didn't put a definite time in the autopsy report. Can we summon her? I think it's her, right? Maria or Marie something? Maria Gori, yeah. Gori. That's quite the name for a coroner. Now, just hold your horses. Ola's lot here saw the victim going into the building, remember? I couldn't forget that flame-colored hair even if I wanted to. The person you saw entering the building wasn't the victim at all, because the victim isn't even redhead in the first place. Consider this. It could have been another redhead person. Obviously, anybody can wear a wig, so the person that these witnesses saw entering the building 15 minutes before the incident occurred could easily have been someone else entirely wearing the red hairpiece. Someone else? Do you mean to say... It was the same person who contrived the firecracker trick. In other words, Inspector Gregson's killer. Oh, very impressive, Rinosuke Naruhodo. Kazuma? I'm really quite amazed you've come this far. But after all, wasn't I the one who told you that you had all the makings of a great defense lawyer? Thanks, I guess. I also noted the lack of a time of death in this report, a stark omission. But as far as I'm concerned, this whole country's justice system leaves a lot to be desired. Order! Prosecutor Hasogi, what on earth do you mean by that statement? I hear that many of the leading members of Britain's judiciary are present to observe this trial today, so we cannot allow even the slightest doubt to be overlooked. The defense's assertion about the time of death based on the victim's stopwatch is just conjecture. But while the possibility exists that my learned friend may be correct, we have a duty to explore it. Well, certainly, I would agree with you. And what immediately comes to mind is, of course... Well, what comes to my mind is, why did the coroner not include the time of death in their report? Ah, okay, well, that's something else entirely. What was Inspector Gregson doing, and where did he go on the day before the incident? Do you know? The inspector always carried out his investigative work alone. His movements were treated as confidential within Scotland Yard. Even within the yard? However, considering the evidence we've been presented so far, I'd say it's fairly apparent what case the man was pursuing. Wouldn't you, my learned friend? The case of the Reaper? I do have a feeling about what case he might have been investigating. Yes, I agree, surely. My lord, the defense believes it can explain to the court the case that was being investigated by Inspector Gregson at the time of his death. Very well, counsel. Present your argument to the court. Well, and then again, why was he wearing a red-head wig? This? No, surely not. Or that. Well, the Reaper case? I can't say that I find your answer suggestive of anything in particular. Other than perhaps that it is utterly wrong. That much you have clarified most expertly. So it's not the Reaper case? It's the redheads? Wait, hold on. Do I get a yeah, I got a penalty for this. Okay, hold on. Let me go back. Did you just draw Karuma on me, my friend? Karuma is the name of the sword, by the way. I think, Mr. Naruhodo, that there is one particular piece of evidence that really does stand out in showing what case Inspector Gregson was investigating. Yeah, hold on. This one? Ah, yeah, okay, that was the redhead thing, I guess. I believe this red hairpiece points to the answer. I guess I could have shown the wig as well. It was one or the other. We might assume it was part of a disguise used to carry out an undercover investigation. Surely not. Such a brightly colored hairpiece would only serve to make the inspector more noticeable. Yes, that's quite true. It would definitely have made him stand out in a crowd. Except, that is, in a crowd of gentlemen from the Red-Headed League. The Red-Headed League? So, you'd already worked it out. What on earth is this all about? Is there such an extraordinary league of gentlemen? The Extraordinary League of Gentlemen. Nice reference. The Red-Headed League is currently under investigation for a grand deception. A deception of what nature, Counsel? They've been targeting red-headed men across all of London and tricking them out of small sums of money. 2 men were arrested for the misdemeanor only yesterday, in fact. My lord, the defense calls forth for these 2 men to be summoned at once. 2 redheads? Inspector Gregson clearly infiltrated the Red-Headed League using this hairpiece. So it's very likely that he had direct contact with these criminals. And it's quite possible that such contact led to more serious events. I concur that we cannot in good conscience leave this new avenue unexplored. Well done, Mr. Naruhodo. Well, it's another possible line of inquiry for us, at least. The prosecution will make immediate arrangements for the charged men to appear. There's gonna be a recess. Bring these 2 Red-Headed League conspirators before me, Prosecutor Asogi. At once, my lord. Very good. We will have a 30-minute recess. Court is adjourned. Yeah. Thought so. Second November, 12:33 p.m. Oh, there you are, Odo. What kept you, my dear fellow? Hello, Mr. Sholmes, Gina. You sure about what you said in there? That the boss, you know, actually died the day before? It's pretty hard to swallow. Yes, I was shocked by the revelation too, Gina. As was I, possibly more shocked than both of you. It's not a competition, Mr. Sholmes. But I was more shocked than all of you put together. This is the autopsy report in question, is it? Yes, it's strange that there is no time of death noted. I suppose there's a simple explanation, or perhaps it was a deliberate omission. Oh dear, if it was deliberate, it puts me in mind of the last case we worked on, and Dr. Scythe. It's possible that they just couldn't really determine it. That was not necessarily done with in an ill-intentioned way, is what I wanted to say. I know. Anyway, it seems that on the day before Lord Van Zieks discovered his body, Inspector Gregson was investigating the Red-Headed League, so perhaps something happened with them. Come to think of it, you had trouble with those League men too, didn't you, Mr. Sholmes? You were taken in by their trick. No. Naturally, I wasn't taken in, as you put it. My sleuth hound interest was merely piqued slightly by the rare scent of a weekly £4 income. And that scent masks the underlying scent of deception, I suppose. The true criminals in question are the pair we saw being arrested yesterday, aren't they? In Mr. Sholmes' suite, I mean. That's right, Suze. And it was me what took him in. Thanks to a tip-off by a good law-abiding citizen. Indeed, yours truly. So it's going to be that pair in the witness stand next, is it? Something doesn't quite make sense to me, though. The day before Inspector Gregson was found, you hadn't had trouble with the Red-Headed League yet, had you? Why would the Inspector have been investigating them? Well, the likely explanation would be that Gregson's own sleuth hound interest was piqued by the rare scent of a weekly £4 income. Don't tar him with the same brush as you, Sholmes. Yes, well, then there was the whole issue of Inspector Gregson being investigated by Lord Van Zieks for some reason. The Reaper, the Red-Headed League, Inspector Gregson, Lord Van Zieks, and Kazuma. I feel as though he knew we'd arrive at this point somehow. Gosh, I think you're right. What's he really trying to achieve here today? All the answers will soon be revealed. Observe the time, my dear fellow. This recess will be over very shortly. Yes, you're right. Kazuma was determined that he should be the one to prosecute this trial, and he was determined that I should take the defense. Just what is it that he's hoping to make me see, I wonder? I get the feeling we're a long way from the end of this trial yet. Something he said before about this country's judicial system leaves a lot to be desired, he said. That sounds almost like he's complaining about how they make mistakes, and he's implying that they made a mistake about his father also 10 years prior when they sentenced him to death. I think it's gonna come together in the end. Like, look at all the mistakes that that this country's judicial system make. They sentence an innocent man to death, or something like that. I mean, this is probably going to go towards that in the end. Are you ready then, Mr. Sato? Yes. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session again. We resume the closed court hearing of Barak Van Zieks, here present, who stands accused of murder. Now then, Prosecutor Asogi. My lord, have you summoned the witnesses as requested? Yes, the two members of the Red-Headed League who planned and carried out the deception. They arrived not long ago from the local prison by police carriage. Very good. Bailiff, usher the two men into the courtroom. Hold on a minute, there's something I want to do.
Okay. There we go. These two men are currently being held by the police on suspicion of attempted extortion. You may omit your occupations, but state your names now for the court. I am Fabien de Rousseau, a descendant of the great de Rousseau family from Nice, en France. And my name is Peppino de Rossi. I am the third son of the great Familia de Rossi, the landowners from Napoli. The two men first became acquainted at the boarding school for European nobility. Those who graduate from Temzik are the future leaders of Europe. But do you have any idea how boring it is to be born with noble blood? Oh no, they're Italian and French. Alors, I make it my mission to get the better of the world by employing the little grey cells of my brain. That is all I am trying to do, huh? Frenchin. So that's the only reason for this whole grand deception you've been carrying out. Oui, you could say that. Not bad, He has the grand ideals, but the petty plans. This strange combination is the charm of the hilarious brothers. Si, capo. Listen to me, Peppino. I have two things to say to you. Ecce? Are you about to tell me one of your grandi anecdotes? Evviva! Firstly, I want you to stop calling me this capo. And secondly, we are not the hilarious brothers. This is serious business. Que bello! There it is, the capo trump card, the furrowed bro. It is deep, capo, the furrow and the meaning of your words. The court has been led to believe that under the banner of the Red-Headed League, you have conspired to swindle money from unsuspecting members of the public. Is this true? Oui, c'est ça. And what exactly was the nature of this deception by which you planned to defraud? Alors, I will explain it. No, capo! Leave it to me! As you see, we both have the vivid red hair, no? At school, we were teased for this without pity. The capo here, he was many times behind the schoolhouse crying like the Trevi fountain. Where those dogs, one day the world would respect us redheads. Every night, he would bury his head in his pillow and weep. C'est bien, Peppino, enough. I will explain the rest. The first step was a newspaper advertisement. About 1 week before the plan was put into operation, we listed the same notice in every paper in London. Yes, we saw that notice. It was this one, I believe, entitled To the Red-Headed League. Oui, c'est ça. I am honored that you have seen it. It states that the only condition for joining the league is having flame-colored hair, and that if you satisfy the interview panel and are admitted into the league, you could receive a weekly income of £4. On the date specified, red-headed hopefuls gathered in droves at a park specified in the advertisement, and from each person present the spirit took an application fee of 5 shillings. And with the money to France, it was a plan most elegant, no? No, it was most dishonorable. But to be frank, I'm stunned anybody was foolish enough to be taken in by such an obvious trick. It's the ancestor of the scam emails, like, send us $500 and we'll send you $47 million, or something. The park was described by one witness as choked with red-headed folk, like a coaster's orange barrow. And the day on which all these men gathered to apply was the day before the victim was discovered. Crucially, these two men spoke face-to-face with every single person present that day. Oui, I have seen more red-headed people in one day than I will see in the rest of my life. See, and now, every time I see the capo's hair, I feel sick to my stomach. Anyway, why have we been summoned here today? Sorry? The date for our trial was not until tomorrow, I was told. Naturally, neither of these men have been told any details about this trial. They've only been shown this photograph. Very good.
So, Mr. De Russo and Mr. De Rossi, you will now give... Yeah, actually, Rossi. You will now give your formal testimony for the court on the subject of the gentleman pictured in this photograph. Of course. We are always ready to help with the law. The man in the photograph. We had more than 1,000 red-headed people assembled in the park on Lime Street that day. But I don't recall the man in this photograph, Capo? No, I don't remember him. Obviously, he is dead now, but I assure you, he was not in the park. Allora, this victim has nothing to do with us. You have a lot to answer for, Peppino. It is your fault that we got caught in the first place. How old are they, actually? He looks young, the one on the right. And he was crying when they got arrested. Bawling, even. You've given sworn testimony that this man in the photograph was not present. Can you be certain? Oui, I am quite certain. We did not interview this man. And obviously the Italian guy is eating pasta. Spaghetti. Nobody looking like this came to the park. This I can promise. Must be noted that you have been arrested for a grand deception, however. Accordingly, this court has little confidence in your assurances. Afar. With this attitude, we get nowhere, huh? He's really sulking now. This confidential document was obtained directly from Scotland Yard. It records an entry from the inspector's private diary dated the day before the incident. It reads, Lime Street, Red-Headed League, undercover. Ah, I have the answer. Maybe there was another similar event in the park on the day in question, aye? That is ridiculous. There was no question that Inspector Gregson was investigating the Red-Headed League. Which means it's quite possible that's when he was killed. Why, though? Very well, the defense may proceed with the cross-examination now. Yes, my lord. Let me have a look at their character profiles, actually. But it won't let me do so here, though. Yeah, how could you recall the faces of every single one of them and be able to tell that you didn't see this particular person? If you saw more than 1,000. 25 and 26. The fraudster behind the Red-Headed League swindle, who was caught by Mr. Sholmes, he derives from the French aristocracy, it seems. A lackey of the Russo and conspirator in the Red-Headed League swindle, the third son of a great Italian landowner. Okay. 1,000 people, that's a very big crowd. It was quite a spectacle. Redheads had come from all over the capital. See, the capo here, he has the magnetismo animale, aye? Nobody else could attract so many people. If I could be born again, I would be the capo. All those people wanted was the money, Peppino. The £4 per week. Are you suggesting that you spoke personally with all 1,000 applicants? That sounds like a lie. Hold on. Because they said that they could only accept a certain amount of people. Or that was Sholmes who said so, no? On account of the bequest of the late Ezekiel Hopkins of Lebanon, PA, USA, there is now another vacancy open which entitles a member of the League to a salary of £4 a week for purely nominal services. All red-headed men who are sound in body and mind and above the age of 21 years are eligible. Apply in person on the morning of the 31st at the large park on Lime Street. There was only one vacancy. So, and I can't remember. It was Sholmes, I think, who said that when he got there, they weren't accepting applicants anymore. Oui, that we did, because every one of them paid us 5 shillings. We take their names, and we take their money, and we take their addresses as well. Then I tell them we take some days to let them know by a post, e finito, maybe 2 minuti a person. We start early in the morning, and we stop late in the night. So you earned 5,000 shillings in one day? That's a small fortune. Who'd have thought there were 1,000 such gullible redheads in London to start with? One of whom was a great detective with chemically altered hair. Did they really then? Or is it that you went the next day or something and it was already too late? Do I have a piece of evidence that says that Sholmes could not give his 5 shillings or something? Oh no, that's got nothing to do with it. Nah, I don't think I do. I wouldn't be able to prove it anyway. I don't record the man in this photograph, I capo? No, I don't remember him, and obviously he is dead now, but I assure you he was not in the park. Okay, let me press on a bit of everything. It doesn't look at all familiar. No, I don't think so, and this is a wig, he was trying to trick us. I do not like the people who are trying to trick the other people, says the con artist. If between them they interviewed 1,000 people with red hair, it would be unreasonable to expect them to remember every face. No, signore, I may be small, but my memory is very large. I never forget a thing. In my opinion, I do not think this man was in the park. But he's not going to give the court a definite, it seems. Hey, capo, you didn't see a man like this, huh? No, I don't remember him. Blah, 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 blah. But according to what you've said, you spoke with 1,000 or more people that day. Oui, that's true. My eyes were burning by the end of the day. Too much red? It stings the eyes. Surely then you can't actually remember every single face. How are you so certain that this particular man wasn't present? Normally the red hair is very distinctive, aye? But not when you have 1,000 redheads crowding around. Then it is just an eyesore. But if there was some other information you could give us, maybe then we would recall. Huh? That is not the line, Peppino. Remember, we do not remember him. We are sure of that fact. Huh? If there was a man with a red hairpiece, but his mustache did not match the color, then I do not think I could have forgotten him. Yeah, that's a good point, yeah. Yeah, right. Kazuma said these two had only been shown that photograph and they'd been told nothing else at all. But what if I fed them just one other detail about the victim, for example... Yeah, he always carried around his fish and chips, so that's pretty distinctive, no? That's singular. I can certainly appreciate that just knowing the man had red hair wouldn't help you remember in this situation, but what if I told you that the man was always munching on a packet of fish and chips? Do you remember a man who was eating incessantly? Not really. I was looking only at the heads of the applicants. I wouldn't have noticed the fish and chips any more than the caviar and smoked salmon. Oh, the spaghetti! Me, I love the spaghetti! Really? I had no idea. Tell them again what you said before, Peppino. Si, capo, si. I say it again and again. Or maybe if I tell them something else? If I press again and I tried another one of the options? Okay, hold on, let me skip until I'm given the choice. The name, maybe? His name was kind of famous, so... I can certainly appreciate that just knowing the man had red hair wouldn't help you remember in this situation, but what if I told you that the man's name was Gregson? The man in the photograph is a Monsieur Gregson? 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 Yes. Names, they are boring. I did not listen to any of them. Oh. It was not a real interview, huh? It was just for a show. Why would I remember the names? That's right. This changes nothing. The man in the photograph was not there. As we have already said. See? Seems there's little to be gained from pursuing this point further. Tell them again what you said before, Peppino. Yeah, okay, yeah. And it goes back to the previous point. Let me try the third option then. But I would have thought the bag of chips, fish and chips would be... Maybe they really didn't see him. So maybe that's why this is going nowhere. But I have to make sure. I can certainly appreciate that just knowing the man had red hair wouldn't help you remember us in this situation. Yeah, I guess if he did give them his profession and said that he was a policeman... What is it, kitty? Then they would probably started to panic, no? I can certainly appreciate that just knowing the man had red hair wouldn't help you remember in this situation, but what if I told you that the man in the red hairpiece was actually a detective? The man in the photograph? A detective? Yes. It would appear he found your notice in the paper suspicious and decided to investigate incognito. Sorry, but this changes nothing. Ah, this seems to be yielding something. We're getting somewhere. Hold on, I'll let my cat outside. I'll be right back. Okay, sorry about this. Something to add, Mr. DeRossi? Okay? See, I am always adding something. Parmigiano. Olive oil, pepper. What I mean is, did you not agree with your friend's last remark by any chance? Eh? What did he just say about the detective? Yes, that. Keep your mouth shut, Peppino. You have said enough already. But why, Capo? What is the problem? There was a man who said, I am an inspector from Scotland Yard. What? Good lord. Well, it's the last thing I would have thought, actually. His profession. That was actually the right answer. Hoarder! Explain this volte... Well, it's volte-face in French, but, you say that in English, too? Volte-face, I guess, in your testimony, witness. This, complete change of stance. That's what it means. Wait, what did he say? What did he say? It's simple. A man who was at the park said to us that he was an inspector. There was no such man. Madai, what are you saying, Capo? Have you forgotten I have forgotten nothing. Nobody like this came to the park. Basta, Capo, basta. You beat me at many things, but not the two, the memory and the meals. Like I said, when it's time to eat the pasta, no one is faster. But you are inferior to me in every other way, so shut up.
Trop tard. The damage is done. Indeed it is, sir. Too late. Oui, there was a man who came to the park and he said he was an inspector from Scotland Yard. Wow, they really get along, yeah. Partners in crime. However, he looked nothing like the man in the photograph. He was someone else. How can you be so sure? Because, to start with, his face was completely different. See, it's true, the man who came was younger. His face was clean shaven, his eyes were sadder, his chin was thinner. Who could that be? Is it someone we know? A younger and thinner face? Sholmes? Maybe? Did he say he was an inspector? We don't have the age of the victim, by the way. Oh yeah, 45. And I guess if he is, what? 34? Yeah, that's kind of younger. Let's listen to a bit more. A thinner chin. Sad eyes? No resemblance whatsoever, then. Anyway, I was not going to be fooled. I took the obvious precaution and said to him, "If you are really a detective, show us the proof." See, the capo here, he doesn't take no nonsense, aye? But he was all well prepared. He said he had identification. Identification? You mean official police inspector's identification? That is most unconvincing. Sorry, my lord? Counsel, no incognito inspector would offer his identification for inspection. It's quite out of the question. Definitely, why would he expose his true identity? Because he wanted to be remembered? Because he wanted someone to believe that the inspector was really at the scene when he was not, but he just did a botched job of it? Clearly the papers were fake. Certo, capo, you are a genius. As we say in Italia, it takes a thief to recognize another, aye? And what happened after he announced that he was a detective? He became very annoying. He said, "You are under investigation." So I took his papers from him and chased him out of the park. It was fantastico, and look, here is the identification. So you stole it from the man? He had it coming. He made us very scared. And they let them keep it in jail? Like they were not searched or anything? But he was not who he said he was. Indeed, the person described does not appear to have behaved as a true inspector would. However, I believe it would be prudent for these identification papers to be entered into evidence. They are very bad at making themselves look good, yeah. Especially the Italian guy. But I like them. The inspector's identification has been entered into the court record, okay? Now, let us return to the witness's testimony. Metropolitan Police Warrant Card. Yeah, that's what every Bobby has, because there was a document like that in a previous case. I think it was in the first game, actually, of the two. Well, I suppose we should see what this inspector's identification looks like inside. Ah, there's no picture. That's a shame. Yes, it definitely looks fake, doesn't it? Out of interest, what name is given? Probably just something plucked out of the air. Tobias Gregson? Oh, okay. Wait, what? Is it possible that it was this Hugo... What was his name? Hugo Boone? Yeah. Hugh Boone? Well, what was the name of the The fake name of the owner of the place where the body was found. The Scotland Yard insignia. Looks genuine to me, but how? And the department and identification number details are all correct as well. Since when have you known those? Do you mean to say... I know it seems incredible, but yes, I think this is a genuine identification book issued by Scotland Yard. But that's unbelievable. This is the real thing after all? Mm-hmm. Well, it seems that's all the information to be got from that. Okay. Should save, by the way. It's been a while since I saved, I think. Oh, no, actually 10 minutes. Or thereabouts. Allora, this victim has nothing to do with us. Well, I haven't pressed here yet, so let's do it. But we only have your word for that. See, but what else can we do, huh? True. Or maybe I have to present the thing here after having examined it. Huffa, we are not having much fun these days. First we are arrested, then we are shown the horrible picture of a dead man. And now you question every single thing we say. We are the victims here. Aye, capo. No, you were caught carrying out a plot to swindle hundreds of innocent people. You had to bring that up, aye. It's not fair. Aye, capo. You have a lot to answer for, Peppino. It is your fault that we got caught in the first place. What do you mean by that? Cavolo! You promised not to say. Aye, capo. After we had taken all the money that day, we should have left the country. That was my plan. I left the purchasing of the tickets for the ferry to Dunkirk to my companion here. But he bought them for the wrong day. Oops. Top of the line criminals here. Masterminds. See, but it's an easy mistake to make. The 31st. He got it wrong by 30 days. Buff, I have no sympathy for you. We were an whole day late for the boat because of your stupidity. And it's only because of this that the so-called great head-headed detective caught us. Capo, you know what I think? This is the work of God. It is holy punishment, aye. Peppino, for the last time, this is not holy punishment. This is only your fault. Ah. Don't blame God for your unholy mistakes. You are making me sick with anger. Maybe I make a mistake, but when it's time to eat the pasta, no one is faster. Yeah, priorities in life. Yeah, I guess. And I've seen the evidence. They haven't told us much when we didn't already know. What do you think, Mr. Naruhodo? What if it wasn't the inspector's diary? It seems like that he must have gone to Lime Street that day, and yet these two both claim they didn't see him. I have to say, they don't appear to be telling lies. Well, they are experts in deception, don't forget. Sounding plausible is their specialty. And then again, it's so unbelievable, their story, that, well, even that is arguable, then I suppose. They may be lying simply to avoid being implicated in this case as well. Surely if they were truly experts in deception, they wouldn't have been caught. Well, yes, you do have a point there, yeah. It seems to me like we need more information. Well, I have an idea, but I'm absolutely not sure. Well, he has something to do with you if you actually had this real idea. That's what I would argue. Not sure this is where the game is going, though. But let's try. Oh, okay, it's working. I wonder if I can ask you to examine this identification book very closely. Miss Lestrade. Why Miss Lestrade? Because she would be able to tell if this is a genuine article or not. What is your intention here, Counsel? Is this really a fake, or is it genuine? That's the question, which we can't answer ourselves. Don't be ridiculous. No Scotland Yard detective would allow his or her identification to be stolen. If he's dead, there's not much he can do. That is the boss's. No question about it. It can't be. As I suspected. The undercover detective who attended the Red-Headed League's enrollment on the day in question was the real Inspector Gregson, carrying out an incognito investigation. Or they lied, yeah. Maybe they lied about him looking shaven, with a thinner chin and sad eyes or something. Zut alors! Hordar! But if the boss had his identification stolen, he would have reported it straight away. I mean, he was always on that. He was always on at me about it. If you lose some match, report it at once, he'd say. Could it be then that the inspector was physically unable to report it? Physically? Aye? What are you saying? Unable to? You're not suggesting that he was already dead at the time when they saw the imposter? Yes, it's quite possible that he was killed before he had the chance to report his identification stolen. No. Hodar! The defense posits that the victim proposes, I guess it means, that the victim was killed the day before his body was discovered at a different location. Do you two have anything to say about that? I know nothing. I done nothing. Pull yourself together, Peppino. Mon Dieu, you can behave a little more like a master criminal than that, no? I wish I had returned to Italia. Stop crying, Peppino, please. Otherwise, he's gonna cry too. Lummy, stop your whining and start talking. Well, I believe the court will need to hear your story in considerably. I know nothing. I done nothing. But you will tell everything, or face the worst possible outcome. You will dry your eyes and testify again about these identification papers and the precise circumstances under which you came by them. For crying out loud. Yeah, I guess you could say that. The detective and the identification. The truth is, we took him prisoner and kept him for the night at our secret hideout. Even though I didn't think he was a real detective, I was too scared to let him go that day, just in case. We took the man's identification from him and sheltered him in the room next to ours. There might have been a little tussle, but we did him no harm, and the next morning we let him go. He spent the night in a nice room. It was nothing like prison, really. Okay, now they're admitting to abducting the guy? This is outrageous. You imprisoned the man. But no, see, no, it was not like a prison. He was very comfortable and calm and happy. Hi, capo. I wonder, could he have been? He was never a part of my plan, I swear it. So you think it was my fault, aye? Just because I got the date of the ferry wrong. By one little day. I do not think it was your fault, Peppino, I know it. No, per favore, capo. It is not fair. You shall have plenty of time for squabbling back at the prison, gentlemen. I don't believe this. How could he have been a real detective? Counsel for the defense, proceed with the cross-examination. So on the day before the incident, Gregson spent the night confined in the Sparrow's hideout? Is the place he was found at the hideout in question? Or not? Because there are still some things about the scene that have not been explained, like the photo frame of Miss Vigil, I think it was the name. Mrs. Vigil, sorry. The detective and the identification. Okay. Where is this secret hideout? Do you realize what you're saying? You have to believe me, I never intended for that to happen. And I'm sure the detective did not intend it either. You think... But there was nothing else I could do. See, nothing else. This wasn't the first time for the capo. He was at the end of his wits. I have told you before, Peppino, that is not the way to describe a criminal mastermind. What about this hideout of yours? Yeah, that's what I want to know. An old empty house behind the park on Lime Street. We rented the place for 2 days. It was an inspired idea by the capo here. An impulsive idea, I would say. No, not impulsive, inspired. Hi, capo. What am I supposed to say to that, Peppino? And it wasn't the house described that you can find Inspector Gregson, was it? Oui. But you have to remember, I was under the impression that he was a pretender, not a real inspector. That doesn't quite add up, though. If you didn't think the man was a real inspector, there would have been no reason to take him prisoner, would there? No, you are right, but we couldn't be completely certain. Even though I didn't think he was a real detective, I was too scared to let him go that day, just in case. Too scared? Why? Because why had he come to the park? We didn't know. There was a chance that he had seen through my plan. And if that wasn't the case, he would have gone straight to the police station to blow out the whistle on us. Even if it was just a feigning to be an inspector, he wasn't up to no good, huh? Without a doubt. I think most people would agree that it's you two who were up to no good. Well, see, you may be right. Aye, capo. The point is, we were not able to escape from England immediately. That is why we had no choice but to take the man prisoner. What I don't understand is why the inspector felt the need to show you his identification in the first place. See, I ask myself the same question. We were writing down the names and addresses of all the people who we took 5 shillings from that day. I have forgotten what name he said, but the address, it startled me. See, address, Scotland Yard, Homicide Division, he said. That would be pretty stupid of him. I wonder if it was really the real inspector, really. It sounds more like something Sholmes would do, more than anything else. It was Sholmes, wasn't it? Probably. Surely. It couldn't have been Gregson. But then again, he stole the documents from the... Yeah, that doesn't make much sense, though. But the most likely to do something as stupid as that would have been Sholmes. He probably didn't like your face, Peppino. Yeah, he probably didn't like your face, Peppino. Anyway, I was not rude. I just politely asked him why he had said it. And that's when he started to say he was an inspector. Not long afterwards, he took out his identification. What was Inspector Gregson playing at? Tell the court what happened next. You took him back to your hideout, you say. See, we did. That being this identification book here, correct? See, that is the one. What made you believe that it was a forgery? I never seen a real one, of course. But he was so suspicious, this man. Allora, I was thinking, it must be falso, ai capo. It is just as Peppino has said, we were convinced it was not genuine. And so together, the hilarious brothers, we took the man captive. All we did was shove him inside the locked room. Then we made preparations to transport all of the money. In for a penny, in for a pound.
There might have been a little tussle, but we did him no harm, and the next morning we let him go. A little tussle? Did the real Gregson show any sign of a struggle? No. What do you mean by a little tussle exactly? Buff, it was nothing. Just a minor incident. The Falso Inspector was a real piece of the work, aye capo? What happened? It was a disaster. Give him a nice room and what does he do? In the middle of the night, he tries to escape through the ventilatore. Can you blame him? We chased him, bien sûr, and we caught him again. Can you blame us? Wait, you didn't shoot the man in your haze, did you? Zut, who do you think we are? Of course not. I simply caught hold of him again and took him back to the room. He's dying to say something. Mr. De Rossi, is something wrong? Aye, me? Something Mr. DeRusso just said seemed to make you, well, it seemed to make you act even more strangely than usual. What was that all about? Cavolo, at times like that, you don't want to have the capo after you, believe me. And I speak from a personal esperienza. Personal experience? That is enough, Peppino. There is no need to say more. The truth is, the night before we put the Red-Headed League plan into action, I was scared. It was not fair to the capo, but I tried to run away. It's a shame you didn't manage it. But the capo here, he came after me like the turbine, huh? And he dragged me back to the house, kicking and screaming. I still have the bruises to prove it, aye, capo? Bruises, you say? Ah, you wanna see, huh? You wanna see my fantastical bruises? That's enough now, Peppino. No one wants to look at any part of you. What to do, huh? Are you show you or are you don't? Are you show you or are you don't? You do, now. Allora, if everybody wants to see, then how you do it? Ecco! You see? It's still very visible, hey? Aye? That red ring around your neck, you got that when you were dragged back to the house? See, the capo, sometimes he is very rough, and I said that's enough. Peppino's neck is nothing to do with what we are talking about here. You have my word. Let me have a look at the picture, see if he does have the same marks. That's gonna be hard to see. About this red ring around Mr. De Rossi's neck, I wonder, does it matter? It's important because if the real guy doesn't have any, it means it was a different person. Mr. De Rossi, I'm going to have to ask you to amend your testimony with details about that mark on your neck. Aye, capo, you see? Everyone is interested in what I say, huh? Very well, you will amend your testimony as requested, Mr. De Rossi. See, if you really wanted to know. He put the collar on him and dragged him back, like what he did to me, see? Okay. Maybe I should present something here? I'm thinking the picture or the autopsy report. If he had such marks, that would have been in the autopsy report, no? Nah, this is incorrect. Okay.
Because the music stops when you show the correct piece of evidence. Or the picture? Ah, it was the picture. Okay. So the day before his body was discovered, Inspector Gregson was taken prisoner while working incognito. No, it was not like that. It was hardly a prison. It was an invitation to stay. It was only. However you describe it, there is one glaring inconsistency that remains. What inconsistency is this, counsel? I would ask the court to look closely at this photograph of the victim, Inspector Gregson. I went for the autopsy report because to me you can't really see his neck clearly, so... that didn't seem to matter. It didn't seem like a good enough piece of evidence to show what I meant. Or I guess, well, I guess you can see this portion of his neck well enough. You will see that there is no red ring visible around his neck. But that makes no sense. It was me who took the coat area of the man in the morning. And I saw the red bruises on his neck, just like I have. Given that the mark is still clearly visible on this witness's neck, we'd expect to see bruising on the victim who was put into color more recently than Mr. DeRossi. Indeed, that is most peculiar. But what we tell you, huh? We say it is. From the beginning, many times. Oui, Peppino is right. The man in the photograph. He is someone different to the men we held captives that night. Hodor! It would appear then that on the day before the incident, the man who visited the park on Lime Street posing as an incognito inspector was not Inspector Gregson at all. But he had his genuine papers though. Yeah, if that's true, however, how would you explain the inspector's identification? This is a genuine identification book issued by Scotland Yard. It's inconceivable that someone could have stolen such an important item from the inspector. The prosecution made that assertion itself. And we also know that the inspector had made a note about the red-headed leak in his diary for that day, which surely means we can't divorce the two events completely. The inconsistency noted by the defense is most troubling. If it were the real Inspector Gregson whom these two red-headed gentlemen encountered, the fact that no bruising can be seen around his neck defies explanation. But equally, if they actually encountered an imposter, how did that person come to be in possession of the real inspector's identification? Does the defense have some plausible explanation, counsel? The whole thing defies explanation. It is for precisely these occasions that we keep meticulous notes in the court record, Mr. Naruhodo, because those are the facts, and the facts cannot lie. No, the facts can't lie. Even when they point to something so incredible, it's almost unbelievable. Well, my lord, the true identity of the person who turned up in the park for the Red-Headed League's enrollment is revealed by information in the court record, I believe. I'm not sure who that can be. This guy? No. We haven't even established a connection with this between this guy and the case. No, that can't be it either. Good gracious. Very tantalizing, Mr. Naruhodo. So why don't you help us all see whatever truth it is that you've apparently seen? Who exactly was this inspector that appeared before Mr. DeRusso and Mr. DeRossi? Well, it's an imposter. To me, there is no question about it. Though it seems incredible, I admit, the undeniable facts point to only one thing. Since no bruising can be seen on the victim's neck, the person who these two red-headed men took prisoner that day cannot have been Inspector Gregson. In other words, your whole argument up to now has been a waste of time. On the contrary, I haven't finished. What? There's no bruising on the victim's neck, so the question immediately posed next is, who exactly was this man in the park on Lime Street found to be carrying Inspector Gregson's identification? See, that's right. We tell the same story every time. Whoever this man was, the capo dragged him from a pillar to a post with the dog colare. Mon Dieu, Peppino, it was not so harsh as you say, huh? So who was that falso inspector? Aye, who was he? Clearly the defense has an idea about that. About the true identity of the man these two imprisoned that night. I must ask the counsel for the defense to elaborate post-haste. Who did the witnesses encounter in the park posing as Inspector Gregson? The fact that we found the body inside a room where there was a picture of his wife makes me think of the vigil guy, but I don't see why. Why would he have done that? However, Sherlock Holmes, I guess, is a master of disguise, so I think this is incorrect. Just from the way it's phrased, it's surely no secret this is the identity of the imposter. Oh, really? On what grounds? Well, I said it was no secret, but that part is. Dear me, if ever a penalty was in order, it's now, I feel. Okay, there are not a ton of people that I can present, so... No, this is the same thing as before, so this is wrong as well. Hey, wait a minute, he has a mark, no? On his neck. You can see it in the picture, actually. I didn't notice until now. Goodness me, isn't that one of the witnesses who was in the stand in this very courtroom earlier today? A nameless man whose only occupation appears to be peddling hearsay to passers-by. What on earth would a street seller be doing with a police inspector's identification papers? Witnesses, is this the man or not? What has happened to his lip? Ah. See, this man is not for the red-headed league, aye? He's looking for the twisted lip league, you know? Perhaps rather than making such a rash claim next time, you should bite your lip instead. It seems improbable, yes, but one undeniable fact remains. During his testimony earlier, I noticed something around the man's neck. A red ring of bruising. Actually, I didn't. It's only because of the profile picture that I noticed. Eh? What? The defense demands that Mr. Gossip be brought back to the stand. Horda! Bailiff, bring the aforementioned witness back into the courtroom immediately! Bunch of morons. Well, I never. An undeniable ring of bruising indeed. And identical to that of the witness beside him. Now what's going on here, eh? I've always had this, me. It's a birthmark, innit? A birthmark, you say? I assume the reason you've been recalled to the stand that's been explained to you? Somewhat about an inspector again, but I'm telling you, you've got it all wrong as usual. You're denying all knowledge of it. Well, of course I am. Yeah, birthmark. Yeah, that's likely. Well, of course I am. Are you trying to kill me with all this nonsense, eh? Got strangled at birth or what? And, well, then again, you know what? I don't know if a baby born with his umbilical cord wrapped around his neck, if they could keep a birthmark like that. I don't know, actually. Tell you what. But yeah, it's pretty unlikely, admittedly. Well, at least you'll have more stories to peddle back on Fresno Street, won't you? Now we're going to need you to testify again. Yeah, they wouldn't? Ah, well, okay, if you say so. And you, Mr. DeRusso and Mr. DeRossi, I'm sure you'll cooperate, won't you? He's full of shit. Well, of course, yeah, in this case, I have no doubt that he's full of shit. Do we have any choice? We are in bigger trouble, right, Capo? That's quite enough dilatory chatter. Proceed with the testimony. Yeah, let's listen to it and get to the cross-examination, then I'll stop for today, as it's getting late for me as well. The inspector and the identification revisited. The man who claimed to be an inspector that day was definitely not this man. He's right, see. It's right, see. You think we would have forget these grand lips? I never leave Fresno Street, alright? I've no interest in any red-headed league. I'm all alone in the world, me. I've no kinfolk or nothing. Why would I be involved in something like that? Just look at me, eh? Does it look like I could carry off a disguise with a face like this? Actually, he's not wrong. He has a pretty unforgettable face. It would certainly appear that we have the wrong man. What have I been telling you, huh? There was no need for this pointless testimony. What's his real name, actually, that gossip guy? That's right, I'm just a simple peddler, remember? Fresno Street's all I know. Maybe he is an accomplice. I don't know. Well, no. No, because they wouldn't have dragged him. I don't know anymore at this point. How would I have come by a police inspector's identification book, eh? Well, yes, that's hard to explain, but... He works right in front of the... He works on the streets, right in front of the house where the body was found, so, he could have gone in the house before and just not said and not told anyone, I suppose. A brief cross-examination, I think, counsel, very brief. Isn't there anyone in this courtroom who thinks I might be onto something? I stand steadfast at your side as always, Mr. Naruhodo. Yeah, well, that'll be all from me for today. I'll leave it here, and I'll be back tomorrow night then with part 9. I think we may be done with this case tomorrow. I'm not entirely sure. We'll see how long the rest of it is. It's supposed to be a bit shorter than the others, from what little I know, without spoiling myself. But anyway, back tomorrow, 7 p.m. like every night, and we'll continue then. Thank you for watching, thank you for joining us, and hopefully I get to see you guys tomorrow. Adios, Society Guy. Bye, everyone. Take care. Have a good rest of the night or rest of the day. See you. Bye-bye.